Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Semifinals. We've got the top four teams from the bracket coming in hot. We have Rising Sun and Team Rival today, and I believe we have Choo Choo versus Gardening Tools when they organise it. Hopefully, in the next couple of days. But coming in straight away, you've got casting today. You got me, Sam, and I'm joined by Rob.
Hey guys, and as you're about to say there, we have these pretty obvious looking bands here with the magical ADCs. Nobody wants to deal with that at the minute. So Oleron and Freya are going to sit this one out. And also taking out the Mercury, I think obviously we've got Team Rival on the left here on the blue, and we've got Team Rising Sun in the red. And we know that Sleeping Wolf is such a strong jungler that I think they want to take that Mercury away from him.
Exactly that, and they're also focusing out this Heimdall as well, obviously recognising the power he brings to that ADC lane with the amount of control he has and boxing potential. Don't want to deal with him either. Getting rid of that, getting rid of the Freya, an obvious annoying pick, but pick the Cupid, a very well-rounded, controlled ADC that we've seen go in mid, we've seen go in ADC role, and he brings a lot of CC and control really into these fights.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's definitely seen a bit of a resurgence at the minute. He's got that CC going for him, the Fields of Love, but also he's also got the sustain as well with the hearts.
We do see the Ymir come through as well as the Achilles. I mean, the Ymir's probably going to be a good pickup into that duo lane, trying to catch the Cupid's dash so you can really try and lock him down. And you've got this Achilles as well, sat in there to try and really battle into this sort of. I imagine it will go solo. We have seen it go jungle before, but a nice sort of strong pick that scales quite well into that sort of late game, which allows you to really go around and start trying to use your execute to take off some of these tanky targets.
Definitely, and I think that looks like it'll be facing up against a Mulan here, who's also seen a lot of success in that solo lane. I think it'll be a fairly even matchup at that point. They both have a lot of sort of early aggression that they can bring. Both have sort of built-in sustain, so it should be interesting to see how that matchup pans out.
Like that. And on the flip side, we do see the Merlin. It's quite a nice safe, as you say, safe mid laner that gives you, the ability to throw out your abilities from long range. And he's such a strong god as well in that sort of defense stages. If you're getting a Phoenix Siege, you just need to kill that minion wave as quickly as possible from a distance. And that is what Merlin strives on. We see some very quick bans come through. All Ho Yi, got the Discordia, and then you also have the Morrigan, but we do see them pick up the Ashibalanke.
Yeah, I like that play there by Rising Sun. You see, they got the Merlin locked in at the end of that first phase, and then they focused out these other mages. Perhaps they pose a bit of a threat to Merlin, so just getting rid of the Discordia and perhaps the Morrigan as well to sort of free up the Merlin. We do see, there are some other mid laners slipping through. We can see the Nox hovered here, but I would have thought maybe things like Raijin as well would have been considered in that slot.
He is going to be the Nox, and we have seen Nox have a bit of a shaky performance throughout the league. He has uh, a lot of aggression that can really be used, and an amazing amount of utility as well. Just being able to silence a large area to limit these people from using their abilities really can turn that fight on the flip side and potentially save you as well if you're getting ganked by this Achilles.
Yeah, certainly, and I obviously like the Nox might have a bit of a struggle during that laning phase. Obviously, really not being able to clear super effectively until they can instant clear with that too. But I think obviously Nox offers a lot of utility into the late game and into these team fights where she can have that big AOE silence. If you pair that with something like the Cupid Fields of Love, Kuzenbo obviously is going to be getting in people's faces and providing a lot of CC. So if they can combo these things off, I think that could be very potent when it comes to the late game team fights.
So two things that have really come out here. You got the Mulan in support, which I think, yeah, that's fair enough. That'll supply a lot of control in that lane. You've got the Kuzenbo solo, which again, as you expect, he does quite well there. He's got the ability to control it. But the main one thing I want to point out here is you've got the Ymir jungle, which
Yeah, bringing it back.
bringing it back from the old days. But you have that sort of using the frostbite to really get that next hit to do a lot of damage. His passive just works so well, and the amount of control and lockdown you can try and bring in as well is definitely going to be interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how he builds, how he plays it. Maybe he goes more tank orientated to try and set up his team. But a bit of a surprising one coming through. And on top of that, we also have the Bacchus picked up, which again is another one of these gods that brings a lot of CC, a lot of damage, and has the ult as well to really just try and push the enemy team on the backside. But it'll be interesting to see whether this Mulan can try and interrupt the burp with the arrow and just try and limit really what he can do in this duo lane.
I think, it's going to be interesting to see as I feel like Rising Sun have got a very solid front line in the Ymir and Bacchus, and obviously the Achilles as well. So it we may see one of those three start to build into a more damaging build, be it either the Ymir jungle or the Achilles, most likely. As both of those characters can deal a lot of damage, while also the base values let them be really tanky still. As opposed to obviously the Humbats is going to be a lot more squishy, but he can definitely get things done. He's got a good, again with the Rival have got a bit of a theme here with their sort of area denial, area control with these ultimates, which I think is definitely an interesting comp to play.
Exactly that. I mean, you're gonna want to fight, but they're gonna take it on their terms, and they're gonna output so much CC. I wouldn't be surprised if you're gonna see these beads go down pretty much as soon as they have them up. And as you sort of your Merlin and your, I'm only gonna say Merlin and Shibalanke because the Ymir is still gonna be tanky even if your bit does build damage. You've got to watch out for this, and with the amount of dive potential from the team and see the ultimates as well, just being able to really try and lock people down, it is going to be a very dangerous game for these two squishy targets.
Definitely. I think, we talked a little bit before about the Mulan support. You don't see it too much, but it's definitely been on the rise lately. And I think, as long as you can land those grapples with the arrow, you're good. But she does offer a lot of damage potential in the early game. Maybe doesn't have the same sort of tankiness and CC from the outset, but obviously they're not looking for that, right? They're going to be looking for this early lane pressure, getting that damage off, hitting those arrows, and Cupid is just as good a hunter as any to follow up on these plucks. Be interesting to see if that really pays off for them and if they've got the comms to keep it up.
Exactly that. As you said, the Mulan is just such an aggressive early game character, and you, especially if you pick up that sort of, I know in solo you usually pick up the spear, the amount of healing it gives you just allows you to really try and snowball it. But I imagine you're probably, as this Mulan, going to level up the swords into arrow to try and get some picks, and then probably get the spear third. But she has the sustain to keep going in this lane, and paired up with the Cupid as well, you're going to have a fair bit of sustain between the two of them to really try and keep them topped up and ready to go.
Definitely, and I think obviously it's going to be tricky for them though into the Shibalanke Bacchus because they're not going to let them off lightly. Bacchus we know has really solid damage values even when he's not building into it, and obviously a lot of really strong CC. And with that damage potential as well, can be pretty deadly. Obviously, Shibalanke is going to be looking for that late game. I think obviously, like all hunters, they want to farm it up, but I think Shibalanke especially so, as he wants to build those stacks into that late game.
I suppose the bonus thing you have with the Shibalanke is if you level his dash, it's got that little bit of CC immunity to it, so you potentially could use that trying to avoid some of these Cupid heart bombs and things like that, and potentially try and get out of it if Mulan tries to ult him to avoid that knock up and the root. But I think at the beginning we're probably just going to see a pretty standard start. You're going to see most people go to their buffs, farm up where they can, and then we do see the supports run to lane first, trying to get that ghost minion to give them that little bit little bit more gold to try and hit level 2 off this wave.
Yeah, I think nobody wants the level 2 more than Mulan does. Obviously, she's gotten the spear first this time. So as soon as she gets the level up, I imagine they'd probably go for the arrow and look for these early plucks.
Potentially, or maybe even just the swords for the damage. The spear is a good pickup, though. It does give you that sort of health sustain in lane, which really allows you to keep yourself topped up. If you does get the sword, just try and help clear these waves. Back to taking a bit of hard bomb damage there. And we are going to see this Shibalanka go level the 1, try and play a little bit aggressive. And the back is just peeling there. Just making sure the Mulan's not going to do too much damage into this lane.
Got a bit of fighting over the double harpies near mid lane. Merlin's already used up a lot of his mana here, you know, trying to clear the wave and fight into the Nox. Merlin's going to come along and take off that beads real early. So Nox is pretty defenseless when the next freeze comes along. Combats is going to sort of kite his way around.
Stealing some minions too.
Yeah.
You know, in this dual lane, the Mulan is getting a bit poked out, taking a fair bit of damage from probably this Shibalanka as he hits the minions, it ricochets back. And we do see the Kuzenbo just harassing this Achilles. The good bounce from the Nene Kappa, and the Nene Kappa's going to chase it, but just got enough support there from the tower to back out. Hasn't done so, I'm just going to finish that off for the boys. Let's probably just go back to lane, maybe look for a kill.
Yeah, for a second there, Trickster's really made me believe that maybe now he can make something happen with the Nene. But I think it bounces a little bit off the mark. But you know, Kuzenbo is really serving him well in this matchup. So you're being able to sort of counter a lot of that aggression with that sort of Thorns-like ability. Sort of reverse some of that damage.
He did bounce off the walls to try and lock him down, hit the slow, be a bit of annoyance if anything. But I guess the advantage of Achilles is he does have that heal built into his kit. He can try and use his ability to heal off the wave, and if he hits the Kuzenbo, who's probably going to be standing in wave with the spear, then he's probably going to get a double heal as well as the shield. So he does have a little bit of survivability into that lane.
We did see in the mid, obviously Nox was getting a bit of pressure, which you wouldn't necessarily expect her to get with a wave clear as it is, as the Merlin's low on his own mana, and obviously with as many abilities as he has, that's you know, obviously going to be tricky for him to keep that up. But we do see him stick around a bit, helped out by his Ymir, no doubt.
He is going to go back to base, probably finish up some items. Nox has turned up. Now, there's an interesting fight in the mid lane because, of course, the main thing Nox struggles with is wave clear and poke, which is kind of what you want as your mid laner. She has to use her poke as the wave clear, and usually if she wants to get poked, she has to use 2 abilities, which really limits her in that potential. We do see a bit of aggression coming out from this team, though, going straight onto the Cupid, who's just gets away, has a bit of healing built up, but the boys in red just playing very aggressive in this dual lane, looking for picks, and I can't help but feel if they had the Shibalanka out there to extend the autos, that would have very easily been a kill.
Yeah, we did see the clever use of beads though to, you know, dodge that back as burp. You're seeing Nox and Humbats not looking so good as they did go for this red buff invade. Poor members rotating out to try and find these picks. Ymir will going up as well, but obviously they don't want to walk into that silence, even if she is quite low on mana. Instead, they're just going to take their red instead.
And there it is, the utility coming out from Nox. She's using that silence to dissuade people to come near her. So much area denial. Just gives them that little bit of an advantage. We are going to see that the Hunbats has been caught out, and he's going to be hit with a lot of CC there. From the freeze, the knock up, the burp, and the ult from Bacchus. Just nowhere to really go there. Probably uses jump already. Just falls very quickly.
Yeah, I believe if I heard correctly the audio cue, I believe he used the jump to re-engage, and I think maybe got a bit greedy. Maybe didn't realize they hadn't fully backed off yet. And there you go, first blood to Rising Sun.
That's just using that Ymir to really control those fights, locking down on the wall and the freeze, and then helping his team from the rest. And this Kuzenbo now appears, although he's got the level advantage, he is struggling. He is not going to get ulted. Good solo kill there from the Achilles. Recognize he has the damage. He's got the ult for the, you know, that little bit extra. But just using the heal to get as much healing as he can off them before they use the ult and go through with it. Now looking towards
Yeah.
Hunbats though.
I think
Hunbats again getting caught out. Does use the ult, but has to use it defensively.
looks like it will be enough to save him though, but obviously I'm not sure if that was the best move by the Humbats there. Obviously once they'd seen that Kuzenbo was down, Achilles has got his sort of wave pressure going and is roaming a bit. You don't really want to go and fight into that. You know, sometimes as a jungler, if you spot things going on one side of the map, maybe your best bet is to head elsewhere. But
Good shell did die, but does try and get a lot of damage off, and Merlin's throwing things over through the wall, but a bit of aggressive pathing there, if anything, to try and get around the back line. Army just falls for it. Ymir is coming in.
yeah, speaking of aggressive pathing,
very aggressive damage coming through, and it will lock down a lot of these members. Frostbite coming through. Good double kill there from the Ymir. Just able to quickly burst through the two members very quickly and almost get knocked as well.
there you go.
Meanwhile, Kuzenbo's back in solo lane. Has lost his blue buff, so he is going to struggle a little bit into this laning phase, but will delay the Achilles back a little bit with his Nene, and we'll try and get a bit more damage off, blocking Achilles through some minions. But Achilles is just playing into it now. The Nene doing a lot of damage, and he will probably take some shots as well from the archers. But we'll just about make it to tower line, nice and safely.
He's looking for that bounce though. He's gonna threaten it. He doesn't. He's still low on the mana, so he's gonna not get too much of it. But
oh, Nene coming for it, but just not enough. He will push some waves on towers, forcing the Achilles to stay, which could be very dangerous if the Kuzenbo wants to sort of play into this. But Achilles being able to clear it and just back, or try to back, but he is coming back in again. It does have the Nene. He's just tormenting this Achilles. Achilles can't back, has to clear the wave, and Kuzenbo is just being a real nuisance to him.
he might overstay a bit though as Ymir comes in. Achilles still has full mana. He's going to go in a bit risky, but obviously the heal's going to keep him topped up. And he's not looking too good as the execute does come out. And there goes Kuzenbo.
Just playing a little bit too aggressive. Didn't really recognise the Ymir was coming in. They're going straight for that blue again. Meanwhile, Humbats is coming in to try and pick it up. Does have the ult to try and get out, but walks straight into Mulan. And they will use the ult just to clean him up. But it will be, I think, ultimately, they are going to try and put that Kuzenbo behind, not giving that mana buff. He's really struggling in the lane. As we do see the Merlin and the rest of the team try and get a bit aggressive onto this Hunbats, but we just retreat back.
Yeah, so it's interesting you picked up on the mana buff. Obviously, yeah, we saw Kuzenbo with that low mana values, throughout a lot of those fights. So I definitely think he relies on it a bit more than the Achilles. But I have to say, shout out to Trickster. I love the just sort of looking for that perfect angle. You could see the equations flying around his head as he got the triple bounce, but unfortunately, not enough to save him.
Exactly that. Just playing a little bit too aggressive, hanging around that tower line a little bit too long, and allowing the jungler just to get a jump on him. Really, he's just a feels bad man, if anything, especially with how low he got him. But you do see him coming in the back line, potentially going to make something happen again in this solo lane as they perpetually slap each other.
Standard fare for the solo lane, constantly beating each other up. But we see this grouping on the sort of mid left side. As you're going to see them sort of duel a bit in this duo lane here.
Cupid realizing that the Shibalanke hits hard and decides to retreat off. She rushing that Transcendence though, so he doesn't have boots yet, so he is going to be a little bit immobile. Has got the dash to try and reposition himself, but it's going to be an interesting box between the two of them. So you really going to get this. He's going to get the trade here.
You see, it's that difference of obviously the level lead going the way of Shibalanke, but also going for that early power in the Transcendence rather than the boots. Whereas Cupid, is yet to get things stacking. I think he's going for a Devourer's Gauntlet there. But he's gone for the safer option in the boots, obviously, to keep him mobile.
Good job there with the Nox getting out from 3 members. Wall slightly off the mark, probably maybe on CD, or just didn't really expect the Nox to really get out of that freeze quick enough. But able to escape, and the rest of the team just really trying to back off. You see that the Ymir does make a rotate into that solo lane, get a kill, and now the rest of the team is looking very aggressive in this mid lane. Dude does get the kill on the Bacchus, and tries to make a play on Merlin, but nothing really happens. Ymir is lurking though, and he is going to move in as this Humbat plays very aggressive on the tower. But the Ymir is here, and he's here to bring a lot of damage. Just bursts through Nox very quickly.
Yeah, huge damage numbers, but also, huge control with all that CC and slowing you down and hitting you with stuns everywhere and the wall. This pick's really working out for Rising Sun here, and so he's starting to put them a little bit ahead.
The damage from the Shivalanke just really putting this Cupid in his place now. He's got the boots, he's got the Transcendence fully stacked, and he's just outputting heavy hits from these autos. But yeah, the Ymir just being able to catch the Nox's dash there, force it early, and then use the wall to really limit where she can go. Just good heads-up play to really lock her down as much as possible, and using that Frostbite passive as effectively as possible, getting those auto attack cancels in, and just trying to deal as much damage as possible into that scene.
Yeah, and I know we weren't 100% sure on the Nox pick. I think obviously if they had picked into something like the Raijin's obviously really popular. Obviously they wouldn't have known about the Ymir pick, but having that safer leap definitely would benefit them right now. But instead, Ymir's really sort of having his way with these carries into this mid lane. Even Humbat's here struggling to get away.
Forcing the ult out just really can't do much about it. Ymir probably will try and steal this speed. Nox is here to try and secure it, but does use her clear. Ymir does get it. Merlin coming over. They're very deep in this jungle and can get ganked very easily. Ymir's trying to make something happen. Only nothing, because we do see Cupid get aggressed on by the Shivalanke as well.
I think a bit of a messy team fight here is sort of the grouping isn't quite there, but I think Mulan might be caught out behind the enemy lines and it's going to get turned on there.
Exactly that. The Mulan just trying to make something happen as the rest of the team's being zoned out by the Bacchus and just the Bacchus mainly. Going in on our own and getting collapsed on very quickly. And just giving the team basically a free Pyromancer there, getting a solid pick. Everyone else is low, so they can't really do anything about it, and they will get the Pyromancer. That little bit of gold and XP into their favor.
Yeah, so I said it was a messy looking team fight, but actually maybe knowing these guys as well, maybe it was calculated, maybe they knew they could zone them off like that and obviously sort of fight in this weird jungle position and be pretty comfortable with it.
I think either way, messy team fight or not, they planned it in a way that they're going to push him back and then try and get Pyromancer, but could have gone a completely different way. Meanwhile, this Shivalanke is just really trying to bully this Cupid, force him under tower as much as possible, and stealing away these purple buffs as well. Humbats is coming over though, so potentially we'll try and catch the Shivalanke off guard. But he's got the ult, he's got the CC immunity in his dash, and he will just disappear.
I guess that ult is more of a mind game than anything else, right? With the stun being removed now. So it's all about, like, as soon as Humbat, had his vision shot off like that, he wasn't going to go and gank when he doesn't know what he's ganking. So it's a very powerful use of that ultimate.
I see I feel the Nox hasn't really had the impact as the damage made you want. I mean, you see the difference. Again, granted, she is close to that Merlin, but I think she's more been using her ability to either A, clear away. We've seen an aggressive play onto the sheep. Can't really escape that much burst and damage. And Cupid just doing a lot. Meanwhile, the Ymir coming in and just really putting Cupid in now. That was like a 400 damage hit there with his basic, so
huge.
Don't really know what to say about that. Merlin getting a bit aggressive. Mulan getting a bit aggressive on the Merlin. Polynomicon coming in clutch there. Just really trying to amplify that Frostbite passive on him just to do as much damage as possible on that next basic after ability.
Yeah, despite dying to the Ymir there, props to Dice on the Cupid there for spotting the lazy back Shivalanke and really capitalizing on it. Mulan has to ult out of there as the threat of Ymir looms large now as he's level 16 compared to the other members being sort of all around that, between 10 to 14. So he, 5 kills under his belt is really going to start to have his way with these fights now.
You see this Kuzenbo just doing what he can in this lane, trying to get the tower of anything, and will get caught out by both the Achilles and the Ymir. They've got the CC, they've got the damage, and they will just try and lock him down, trying to push him under the tower to take a bit more shots, but takes a little bit too much from that Ymir ult and will fall.
And there was a clever use there, and obviously some good comms. There's obviously the Shibalanke ult came out as well, limiting his vision. You know, he wouldn't have known the Achilles was coming. As the two-man gank is pretty successful there. They've got to be careful of that solo tower. Maybe Achilles needs to concentrate a bit more on the tower objectives now that they've got these kills going.
I think Achilles is still playing this lane very well. He may have lost a lot of damage to tower, but he's probably going to get a free tower here as the minions will pour in. He's going to clear it and probably take the tower with it. The Kuzenbo does have teleport, and Humbat is on his way, so this Achilles, he's got a lot of people coming towards him, as well as the Nox, so he needs to be caught out, but he does try and avoids the silence, which is the main bit of Nox's damage, and now just doing heavy damage into her. She can't really take this much, and he's on the chase now, using the ult aggressively to really try and lock her down.
And the root does find its mark as Humbat is going to engage here. He's still very tanky, as again, he's level 16 at this point too. And his buddy's going to come in and really try and secure this kill. Do you see the Fear No Evil does do a lot of damage there and push him into the Nox stun. Ymir's just going to sort of panic ult in response and get a kill off it, but does get turned on. Very nice play from Rival there, the collapse.
Exactly that, playing a little bit too aggressive in that lane and really allowing the teams of Rival just to sort of collapse on top of them. Nox being bait there, allowing the Kuzenbo to come in, the Humbat's ult come in, the Nox silence to really force it as much as possible. But yeah, getting the kills needed to try and lock down this Ymir and Achilles, as they are some of the highest members. But this Shibalanke is also slowly getting scary in this game.
Seeing Mulan doing some work to clear off this mid tower now, as you see these supports are sort of fully roaming at this point. You know, letting the hunters do their thing in that geo lane, and trying to get some pressure going elsewhere. We did see the Merlin sort of prematurely beads there to avoid the arrow that was off the mark anyway, but better to be safe, I think. So it could have spelled trouble if he did get plucked as Kuzenbo was waiting nearby.
I think that's ultimately just a win for Mulan. You know, she missed an ability and got 3 beads off it, so can't really argue with that. She does go aggressive in the jungle, might get attacked by Bacchus, but does just retreat off. I think ultimately, I haven't really seen a huge amount out of this Mulan. I think the early game pressure is what they're really trying to strive on that sort of left-hand side, and it kind of didn't really go in their favour from the Bacchus Shibalanke lane. I think it really sort of turned it on his head and had enough damage to really put it into their favour, really putting them down on the back foot.
Here we see this grouping for a fight in mid lane, as we see the junglers chasing each other here. Just going to steal the speed buff as the Shibalanke ult does go down, just to sort of bamboozle the members of Rival. Try and stealth their team into position as they heavily dive this mid tower. Lots of ults popped as they are looking for this Nox here. She does fall. Fear No Evil does keep them CC'd. A couple of them in the freeze though, 3 of them even, as the ult does pop off. Huge damage going out there from the Ymir. Beautiful freeze as well.
Such a good collapse there, blinking over the wall to really try and lock down those members as much as possible. And they're going to go straight for the Gold Fury there, you know, getting those 3 members. They can't really do anything to contest. But a good collapse, and the moment gets the tower as well, so they can keep engagement going as long as possible. They haven't really retreated to that tier 2. Cupid just hanging around, a little bit in danger, but does just walk off. But just good amount of tankiness and CC coming from the team to really just keep all those members in a bit of an awkward space. Mullins basically didn't get attacked at all, was able to free throw on that back line. And ultimately they're going to get both objectives and maybe even look at a fire giant.
I think that was a a huge swing in Rising Sun's favor. I mean, they were already starting to tilt a little bit ahead, but now they've really sort of pushed the pedal on that accelerator, and they are sort of, you know, sending their lead even further ahead now. That XP and gold difference, and, you know, 7-14 on the kills. So I think they're definitely, you know, they're all sort of heading back, buying these items now, which is really going to set them up well for these future team fights even.
I feel the Kuzma, although he's trying to do work, he's a bit more of an annoyance at the moment. He doesn't really have the damage or CCs do anything. He's just more harassing the Achilles if anything. But he does have the Nox and the Humbats coming in to try and potentially get a pick on this Achilles. Just trying to limit what you can do. He'll get him in a lot of damage, but he does just about almost escape there. Well, I wouldn't say escape, but gets the CC off to try and give himself a bit of peel. But Nox is able to burst through and limit what he can do. Meanwhile, in this ADC, it's been pretty much a farm fest. They haven't really attacked each other or anything like that, apart from the Cupid play. And this Shibalanka is just exerting a lot of pressure in that left-hand side.
I think when we saw that engagement on the Achilles, I think the key part there was Nox landing that combo. So he's silencing me out, and then she's also got Spirit of the Magus online. So just allowing all the rest of her teammates to sort of gang up, deal that extra damage to him as he's been marked. And that was a really nice collapse, and hopefully we'll see more of those plucks.
Good sort of good use of the escape there from the Shibalanka. Not really sure who was around from that heart bomb follow-up, so just uses the CC immunity. We do see the Noxus get blown up there from the combo. You can't really do anything about that. The mid team, the mid lane is just now getting aggressed on heavily by this team. The amount of CC and damage coming through from the team here is just really putting the team on the back foot. Back is taking a lot of damage. Mulan comes in, try and do a bit of CC, and the Bacchus will die, taking too much shots. And the Ymir very low, but the Umberto decides to disengage rather than try and make a play onto him.
You know, this is the strengths of this double Guardian composition here, and with the Achilles as well. So they have so much tankiness that, you know, what towers, right? They don't care. They're just going to dive them all day, and get picks like that. It's pretty crazy.
Good play from the Humbats there, though. Being able to jump in and get that pick on the mid, really try and limit what Rising Sun can really do. As we do see some aggression onto the Cupid, as they're taking a lot of damage. Good CC immunity there to cancel the heart bomb, and probably he's just going to try and seize these towers as the Nox does come in to try and maybe soak a bit of farm and potentially trying to aggress onto the Shibalanka, but Shibalanka is just doing a lot of work into this Cupid, and Cupid is just trying to clear waves under tower at this point.
Yeah, both of them are, you know, level 20 and almost looking at, well, almost full build now. Just got to sell the blessings and the boots and stuff. But so in that 1v1 fight, if you see, you know, Shibalanka is winning that 1v1 fight, you know, it's going to be up to Cupid to try and find other engagements that aren't the 1v1. You know, look for these team fights, group up with your squad, and try and hit those big ultimates.
We do see the Shibalanka though go into the Shadow Steel to try and really limit how much healing Cupid has. He's gone a bit of an odd build as this Nox does get aggressed on and will probably force the Bacchus in the backline, just having that blink and aggression available. Uses the flop to try and set the team again as this Mulan's ulted in to try and help the team, but can't really go anywhere. Humbats is trying to do what he can as the Bacchus is just setting up so much CC and aggression. Humbats drops the ult for a bit of peel, and really it's nothing, doesn't really have the damage available to kill some of these tanky targets. But yeah, this Cupid just not really, bit of an odd style of build, going for that double life steal and then a brawler's beat stick, going for more the ability damage over the auto attack damage, as now this Shibalanka is going to get aggressed on, probably by both, but he's boxing back heavily and does get the kill onto the Hunbat with next to no health remaining. The rest of the team turn up and kills the Mulan, going straight for the Kuzenbo next. And I think there's going straight towards that either Pyromancer or Fire Giant now.
You see Asai doing work on the Shibalanki, just keeping him alive, just enough lifesteal, 1 HP getting away. The rest of his team coming just in time to save him and get those return kills.
I've noticed this recently, but I think with the past 5 minutes, I haven't seen the Nox level up once. She's been stuck at 16 for a while. Cupid potentially going to be caught out by this Ymir. Does use the beast to escape. I think this Nox is struggling. Can't really go to mid because of all the dive happening there, and every other lane is being taken up by everyone else. But this should be a free fire giant for Rising Sun.
Yeah, usually I think Nox would obviously love the setup of a dive team that she's up against here. You know, having the CC to help her, you know, ensure her damage and her own CC. So having this this team comp that she's in at the minute isn't quite working out for them, and I think obviously, like you say, like nowhere is safe at this point for her to just try and farm it up.
Do you think Cupid trying to solo this only tree? He has the rest of the team turning up, so this probably will be a nice objective for them. Potentially just giving them that little bit of advantage, but this whole time Shibalanki is just chunking through the right lane Phoenix. Will get ganked by Hunbat, but I'm wondering who's going to win that trade. Does have Oni minions coming towards him though, so we'll have to sort of back off as the rest of the team is going to try and surge towards him.
Just in time back there, as you see, 3 or 4 members would have maybe caught him out there, but you know they still have fire giants, and now I think they're going to be. You'll see them all rolling out of base. The squad, they're going to be looking for these fights while they've got this buff going.
Well, I see they're just running it down mid now. They want these towers gone, they want the gold, and they want to try and potentially force the Phoenix. They've got the fire giant buff to help them. Good arrow there from the Mulan to limit what the backers can do. But the rest of the team is grouping up heavily, and they're looking for this this tower.
Nox noticing that she really has to be there with the team as she does back there. We see a bunch of ultimates pop now as we see a few of the members of Rival a little bit out of position and getting a bit caught out. Big Fear No Evil does keep them off Phoenix for a little bit longer. Achilles is in that backline doing heavy work.
And this is it. You got the it's the Achilles being able to get out with no health, but just a good engage there from Rising Sun, just doing heavy damage to the entire team. And not really getting any in return. The Hunbat's ult was used a little bit too late, if anything. They've got the mid Phoenix, they're going straight for this right Phoenix. They've got the tankiness to deal with it. You can see the back is tanky, and still has so much health left on him. And they're probably going to try and look for a pick or go straight for this Titan. And you see the Shiba go straight for that Titan, and the way it just gets chunked down very quickly. Nox just trying to do what she can. Does die to the Achilles, who's teleported back in. Merlin being aggressive by the Hunbat. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is just slapping this Titan as much as possible, and it will be a deicide end game 1 to Rising Sun.
Yeah, and you see that was some very good short calling going on in that team comms. As you see, the Achilles went back because he was super low health. I was wondering maybe he'd go and defend the Oni minions, but actually they figured we've got the damage, we've got the fire giant buff, and we can kill these structures so quickly. So he just teleported in, rejoined his team full health, and you know, went back at it again. And I think that was you know, very, very clean end there, which I know the old Baboon Brigade was struggled with, and we've definitely seen it with a few of the other teams as well. So good job there from Rising Sun securing that game 1.
Exactly that. Just having that sort of the heads-up play to really recognize your damage and just do a lot into the team as much as possible. Just puts him on the back foot and does exactly that. Gets it done, and I don't think they were really expecting this Ymir jungle, but they pulled it off spectacularly on the side of Rising Sun. Team Rival, I think, had some great plays in there and turned a few of those fights, but ultimately Rising Sun just played their team comp a little bit better in this scenario. Now, what I really want to know before we go into the next bit of analyzing is, why does Aldo only have 2 gems? That's a bit wild. But going into game 2, what sort of things do you want Team Rival to really sort of ban off the map going into this next match?
Yeah, so I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because all of these guys in Rising Sun, we've seen them play a variety of picks over the course of the league. And I hate to say it, but maybe it's just impossible to fully ban any of them out, to be honest. So I think instead you have to, you know, figure out maybe look less at your bans and almost more about what you're drafting yourself. Because I think, we praised Rivals Team Comp initially as they had, a lot of this good team fight AoE stuff going on, and it seemed like it could wombo combo pretty effectively. But, when it came down to the game, we didn't actually see too much of that happen. We didn't see these big AoE ultimates comboing off each other. It was a lot of, Humbats using the Fear No Evil defensively rather than in using it to engage. We saw Fields of Love a couple of times, but I feel like a lot of people just sort of backed out of it. Kuzumo's Watery Grave, we saw it that one time on Achilles just out of nowhere, not really doing much damage, not really doing much CC. Just, I don't know, trying to make him back off perhaps.
It almost felt like their whole strategy was around this maybe Mulan Nox mid lane, try and get the Nox ahead, use the Mulan arrow into the Nox silence, into the Nox root, try and get some heavy picks, but it ended up falling flat half the time. The Ymir sneaking in half the time, putting the Nox behind, really focusing out this mid lane, and the solo side, so the Kuzumo couldn't really do a huge amount either. Again, another good setup for the Nox. So I do agree with you. I think maybe going for a different strategy in the bans, maybe going for more like a traditional warrior in the solo lane, maybe a traditional guardian in that sort of duo lane. I liked the Humbats pick, but we've seen Mustang Zombie do these warrior pickups in the jungle, which they have done work on in the past. So I'm surprised we're not seeing the resurgence, the Nike or something similar to that, which I feel they would have done a lot more work on, having that tankiness and control to try and help the team. They may look at the solo lane, trying to limit what Five is Alive is playing, potentially try and ban out some of those picks.
Yeah, it could be. I think definitely looks strong on the Achilles. We've seen him pick a few other things at the Sun Wukong. He's pretty comfortable on, and I think from Susano before, so definitely got a range of gods to pick from. But Achilles definitely has a lot of potential. So, maybe they look to ban that one out. It's tricky to sort of justify banning it in that first phase, but in the second phase, I could definitely see them going after that solo if it's not picked up.
I mean, that's just it. I think very rarely you'll see solo get picked up in the first three. I think with that, you're mainly trying to look towards, usually it'll be your support mid and then an assassin. Just the assassin and support having so much control in that early game and can really try and set up the rest of the team. ADC, there's a lot of strong ADCs at the moment. I think the meta favors them a little bit with the items that they built, and you pick up your mid laner just for that sort of gank potential and control coming out that mid lane to try and really not only help your lane if you get ahead, but be able to go to those side lanes as well to try and help them as well. So you're looking for these sort of your core three mid players, and then you leave the other two mainly just to farm up until late game. You rarely see solo come out unless there's an objective being contested. And the same really goes for ADC. Even then, it's usually only Gold Fury. They won't go towards that mid lane too much. They're more trying to hyper farm up to that level 20 mark. So it could be possible that we are going to see maybe some solo bans. I feel the amount of ADC bans coming out from Team Rival almost didn't really work in their favor at all, as the ADC player on Rising Sun just brings out some, Ishibalanke. When's the last time you saw that? And still managed to do heavy work on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I guess from Rising Sun side of things, they probably don't have to make too many adaptations to their build and composition. They clearly looked comfortable on those gods, comfortable on their, on the comms and the team setup, and the sort of synergies they had there. I love the use of the callouts for the Shibalanki ultimates all the way across the map, even though it's not going to affect him directly. And using it to sort of coordinate ganks and things, I think was really awesome team play there. But I could imagine, they can they have a large god pool, and so I think, maybe they've got some other things they might want to bring out, weird picks like the Ymir jungle. I love seeing this sort of off-meta stuff.
Exactly that. I think that was a good thing to highlight, really, is the Sri Lanka just being able to really use them in most team fights to limit what the team can do. You can either help your team disengage or engage, depending on what sort of style you want. And I think, as you said, they used them incredibly effectively, just able to really help them get out of an awkward fight or get right into an awkward fight for the enemy team. And I think the other thing we need to really talk about is the Cupid was is a very strong pick at the moment in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the stronger ADCs to be picked up. But we didn't really see a huge amount out of them. I think apart from the one play in solo where they got that kill, which I'm going to be honest, they should have really sort of realised, okay, well, if I keep doing that on repeat, I'll probably get a few of these kills. But outside of that ult, didn't really use the ult much, apart from when getting aggressed on. Didn't really have the sort of aggression needed and damage needed. And I feel the build was a little bit odd as well, going for more the ability damage from Heart Bomb instead of the standard heavy hitting autos that you see from most of these ADCs.
Yeah, like you said, there was a bit of weirdness with that build with the sort of double lifesteal and sort of very unorthodox building. And maybe they've got some strategy behind it. I don't fully understand the sort of hunter builds, but definitely seemed like something was a little bit up. Still was pumping out a lot of damage and doing a lot of good work. But maybe we'll see them fit into a sort of more expected build, and maybe we'll see them even look to counter Rising Sun's hunter if they pick up one early.
I think that is going to be sort of the difference. You will have, I think, Rising Sun are going to start. I think Rising Sun are going to be having first pick here, so they'll give them. There's a lot of very strong picks in this that you can pick up first, but I imagine they're probably going to prioritize jungle, no matter how weird it was. In this case, they first picked Ymir. I imagine they're probably going to prioritize jungle just because they want to get sleeping on something he knows how to play. And I mean, granted, he can play a lot of things and does a lot of things very well, but just getting him something uncomfortable and then building the rest of the team around it. And I think, as you highlighted, it is a lot about counter picks. So I think on the side of Rival, you almost got to try and guess what the jungle pick is and go from that and try and counter it as much as possible.
Yeah, I wonder if with the Ymir pick, maybe it perhaps tricked Rival into thinking it was going to support that sort of thing. All these sort of early draft sort of mind games to sort of really mess them up. And we did see, Rival picked up the first pick Cupid, didn't they? And again, we sort of talked a little bit about how maybe that pick wasn't as impactful as maybe we'd expect it to be. So maybe they prioritize it a little too heavily. Maybe it's a comfort pick. Who knows? But we might see a bit of a change there. But obviously, with the Rising Sun first pick, we all know what sort of advantage that first pick position comes with. Obviously, you can ban out certain gods and then threaten to pick up any others that you don't ban out, almost forcing your opposition to ban them. And that's how we get certain powerhouses. We've seen like Arachne, Bakasura slip through that have been fairly consistently banned, even the Oleron as well.
Exactly that. Those are your sort of, if something's going to slip through, it'll be that one and probably your Moja, who occasionally slips through. It's really down to the player's choice if they want to pick it up. We know you're a good fan of it, and we know that the support on Choo Choo is also a very big fan of it, just having a lot of control in the match. But yeah, as you said, it's a lot of it's almost a separate game, picks and bans. You got to try and decide on what your enemy's trying to, what their strategy is, what their draft is, and then try and get a draft that counters that effectively. Just trying to really put them in a bad position and use your draft as the strategy. And it is, I think, a lot of these games will go down to which jungler gets picked up first and how that jungler controls the match. Because at the moment, the junglers bring a lot of control and sort of pacing into the map. So you almost want to try and get your jungler ahead so you can execute your plan rather than basically following along on the other team's plan.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you saw it with the Ymir in this match, and we've seen it in countless other games before this one, is that as soon as the jungler starts swinging that momentum, starts sort of putting the fear in those lanes, when's Ymir going to appear and insta-kill you? It definitely adds to your team's tempo and keeps them going, and has a huge impact both on, obviously they're getting a lot of kills for the team and sort of securing these ganks, but also just the sort of, I almost say it's a bit of a mind game, right? You sort of demoralize the enemy team because they know that ganks are coming. They really have to make sure you're warding properly and safely because that threat is so big.
Exactly that. Just having the threat to really try and force them into a bad position. I think a prime example is this Ymir over the Hunbats there. Ymir got ahead early, had the damage early, and was able to really control what lane he went to, who died when almost, is all by his command. I mean, he invaded speed on repeat to the point where people tried, you had a 3-man engage on him in the jungle, but there was times when they would have that 3-man engage and he would win them and still get the speed, just putting that jungler a little bit further and further behind so they can't really get around and make impact on the map, and just out farming them as well. And then on top of that, you got the sort of the Humbats player who, more often than not had to defy, as you say, ult defensively. Couldn't really do a huge amount, but you kind of just got to, I guess, make plays elsewhere and try and farm up elsewhere while the Ymir is just doing the Ymir things. You can't really gank him too much. He is very tanky, and more often than not, if you try and put a load into him, the team would be just around the corner.
Yeah, obviously, with Ymir being that Guardian with that CC, we saw him being very aggressive in that game. But likewise, even if he gets aggressed onto, he can play very defensively all of a sudden, and offer a lot of peel with the wall, with the freeze, and a lot of good utility there, as well as obviously this huge damage out of nowhere. It's a very strong pickup there, and I think not just in the league, but in Smite in general, I love to see more of these Guardian picks in jungle and sort of mixing up that role, because we've seen obviously a huge resurgence in this sort of assassin role. Specifically, auto-attack assassins have been really getting some love recently, although it is starting to get nerfed a little bit, I think. So sort of looking for these weird jungle picks is definitely interesting to experiment with.
And as you say, that's just it. Before the mid-season patch, you would see pretty much warrior jungles be picked up mainly, as they were the in junglers at the time. They brought a lot of scaling, damage built into their kits, a lot of control and CC as well as tankiness. But now all these item changes have now flipped it on its head, and you're looking towards, as you say, these auto attack junglers just able to quickly burst through team fights as much as possible. Similar sort of style to the Bacchus, the Nemesis, the Bacchusaurus, the Nemesis, the Kali. All these sort of pickups that sort of fell out the meta recently have now all come back with a vengeance, and they are very dangerous to play into.
Now, we are still seeing obviously a big priority being placed on the magical ADCs, and I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it, because I'm not 100% sure they're clearly not as prevalent as they were, but they're still very strong. You still have to be wary of them.
I think the main two you got to worry about, which I don't need to tell you because they're going to get banned out instantly here, is the Freya and the Umoja. And I think
Umoja, Oleron.
Umoja or Oleron, sorry, yeah, you're right. I think the Soul and the Chronos don't really bring enough to the table to make them worthwhile bans. But you get rid of the Freya because the amount of damage, healing, the slows, she's just very dangerous when she hits her power spikes. And the Oleron is the only magical ADC that can crit, so you got to worry about that. And you've also got to worry about his ult, which can turn so much of the team fight around on its head that it makes it very difficult to play into him. Now, the Oleron you can counter a bit more than the Freya. So we've seen people pick up like Vamana, the Kuzenbo, Amaterasu, anything that's CC immune, so you can really jump on him and try and get the damage off. Try and limit him. We do see a Knight locked in very quickly there. Similar to the Arachne, stuff they can get on him and limit him is he doesn't have an escape, but they are very aggressive and very damaging, so they will, at the moment, still be more prioritized than these junglers.
Yeah, speaking of jungle, I wouldn't be surprised if this Knight does head there. We have seen like he work in the jungle, just worked in solo, worked in support, so I think very versatile god. It doesn't really matter where you take it, she's still going to be powerful. We are going to see Hachiman Ra picked up. Very strong gods there too.
I think the nice thing about this Nike probably jungle, but maybe support. I imagine the Amaterasu probably will be going to the solo lane. We have seen Fives pick that up and do a lot of work. Bacchus will get picked up too. Nice thing about the Nike is you're taking it away from Mustang Zombie, who we've seen have phenomenal games on, be able to really sort of go around the map and try and turn the fights on its head. But having this sort of, it's a bit odd seeing the three tanks get picked first, just giving them, tanks, jungle, solo, and support being picked up first. It allows you to try and ban out this mid ADC, but the advantage of doing it is you've only got 2 bans to try and ban them out. Meanwhile, on the flip side, we have this Hachiman, Ra, and the Kumbhakani game picked up, just giving them that little bit of, they've got their picks they want for ADC and mid. They're not really going to get banned out apart from the Discordia. And the Kumbhakana's got a lot of CC and setup to try and help the team out as much as possible in these engagements.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a bit of a statement being made by Rising Sun. They're so comfortable that maybe they're not too fussed. They can pick their front line and not worry too much about counter picks. Coming out from rival here, and obviously we know that these other two are comfortable in a wide variety of gods. So any mid and ADC here could really be picked up. We are going to see the sort of Cupid and Izanami is going to try and focus out that ADC role. Instead, we're going to see sort of Camazots and Hades, maybe a few of the sort of possible counter picks there that they're taking off the table.
Just recognizing that they feel the ADC player is a bit more of a threat than the mid player there, and goes for both of the both ADC picks. Don't want to play against them, but the nice thing about that Cupid and the, I guess, Izanami, if you really wanted to, both can be really played in mid as well. So you are technically banning out both, but I think the Izanami one's an interesting one because we haven't seen a huge amount of games where she's been picked up.
Yeah, I mean, we know she offers a lot to the team. Obviously, huge wave clear, really solid damage when it comes to both fighting but also objectives as well. And structures, especially being able to switch on that attack speed and really sort of go to town. But yeah, not the safest hunter, I would say, and doesn't get picked all too often.
We're going to see the Merlin potential Neath come in. Neath giving that bit of a global ultimate to really try and help the other lanes out as much as possible. The King Arthur's a good pick though, because I would have thought King Arthur does very well in that sort of early game phase, and might be able to try and punish this Amaterasu as much as possible. Just really take her down and potentially look for some picks, get a bit of an early lead until she hits that sort of level 8 mark when her shield can really start clearing wave effectively.
Yeah, looking at perhaps a Kali here, which I think is, he's talked enough about auto attack junglers and assassins, and obviously the super powerful at the minute. So I think Kali can definitely do some really good work here. She might struggle with that sort of bigger front line with the Amaterasu and Nike, but as soon as she gets on Merlin and Neath towards the mid to late game, that's going to be sort of a lot of damage coming out very quickly, and obviously trying to get those resets on that death mark. So definitely got some good potential there.
Now the Kali just, as you say, a little bit more survivability than the Humbats. And you go gets in a pickle, has got that couple of seconds of immunity to try and escape. It's an interesting one. So I feel the Nike is going to bring a lot of control into these team fights, and it really is going to be down to this sort of Kumbhakana to try and keep these carries alive. I like the Hachiman pickup because he has got the double escape, but I think the Ra's a bit of an odd one, especially with the mid lane. It doesn't really have an escape outside of the sort of movement speed, so he could potentially be caught off quite a bit, especially with the double mock-up coming out from this team comp.
I do definitely really like the Kumbhakana pick. Obviously, we know he's got this really strong presence that allows him to do a really good job of sort of dissuading the enemy and almost sort of slowing down the enemy's aggression. By having that huge mares, by having the huge uppercut to just take someone out of the fight, for a few seconds, and I think definitely does a good job of sort of forcing people to back off when they start to aggress. But it does mean that obviously they're not going to have the biggest engage potential. I think King Arthur, while he can, eventually turn out to be a solid frontline champion, he doesn't bring so much CC to the table. He's more about the damage and the sustain, which does mean that it's going to be tricky for the Ra, for the Hachi, and for the Kali as well to sort of secure that damage when these targets are locked down, because there's not too much CC going on there.
Exactly that. And I think the nice thing, I guess the nice thing about Ra is if you are in a losing spot, you have got that ultimate to try and either look for some picks from miles away or potentially try and steal some of these objectives. Just trying to get your team in a bit of a more favourable position if push comes to shove. But yeah, he also has, as you say, he's got a bit of healing, but Bacchus does counter that with his burp, though. He does bring a bit of anti-healing, but the nice thing about this Kumbhakana is he can just use the sleep to cancel that pretty much on repeat.
Oh, and of course, yeah, he's got the big overhead swing route that makes him immune to knockups as well, so that'll sort of try and throttle Bacchus even more.
So we hopefully we'll load into game shortly. Which draft are you sort of favouring here?
I think I have to say I'm liking the look of Rising Sun's draft, especially after that last match where they've proven, with these three solid frontliners between the support, the jungle, and the solo, really sort of anchoring down that team to sort of unleash their ADC and their mid. It was a very similar strategy they followed last match. Obviously, the same Bacchus, but also the Achilles we saw and the Ymir as well. So I think they've clearly sort of got their strategy like defined, and they've got it down, and perhaps even got some practice matches in on it as well. And so I think I'd expect them to look pretty comfortable in this matchup.
Exactly that. I mean, I would have to agree with you. Really, I like what Team Rival have done with their pickups, but I feel, as I say, I feel the Ra's not the safest pick from mid. I would have liked something with a bit more of an escape, be that Raijin, or I would say Discordia, but she got banned out, but something that gives them that a little bit of a jump or a teleport to try and escape. Maybe even taking the Merlin away from Josh here. Just you had a phenomenal game on it in game one. Why would you let it through again? Maybe seal it away for yourself to try and put him in a bad position. I feel the Ra is a bit of an odd pickup, but I'm interested to see how they make it work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, maybe because it seems like a bit of a strange pickup to us, maybe it is something that they're comfortable on. and they feel like they can make it work regardless of whether it's a good or bad matchup. Maybe it's the comfort they bring to it. Who knows? But or maybe they've got some hidden intel that he's a secret counter to Merlin, but I'm not too sure about that one.
He
We'll
does
have to
have
see how it pans out.
extended team fights. He's got that going for him, but
I mean,
he does
maybe he
have
just builds full heal and tries
comes
to
to
keep
heal
his
bot,
team alive.
maybe. But I imagine he does have safe wave clear, but I feel, as I say, even under tower, he's going to be in a bit of a awkward situation with this sort of double CC coming from this jungle support with the Merlin clear coming in to do the damage.
Yeah, expecting some big Ra snipes, but also some big Neath snipes, no doubt. It's obviously the
That
global
is
ult.
the other thing to play into it. You know, you got this Ra, but you got Neath who can snipe him from miles away and potentially help the team get the kill in that way. This engagement does go on. Again, I like the Hatchiman pickup, having that sort of safe clear from the arrow to try and help with the damage coming through. And this Kumbhakarna is already doing work with the setup coming through from the overhead route.
A lot of damage on this Neath early on, and so you have to be pretty careful here, as they both level 1 into 2 level 2 characters is a bit risky. But they're gonna, eventually heal up through it and try and sustain through all this poke damage. But I think, yeah, like we said about the Neath ultimate, I think I'm pretty excited to see it because of that performance on Shibalanke we saw, and the comms, and getting these global ultimates off. So if we see something like that, where obviously someone calls out for it all the way across the map and you just send it, I think this team can definitely pull that off.
We do see a bit of a solo lane boxing fight there, pretty equal. The Amaterasu does have healing, which the King Arthur doesn't have in his kit, so he's going to struggle a little bit. But on the flip side, the King Arthur does have the aggression and stuff like that. As we do see a very early engage from the Knight in this duo lane, trying to get this team into their favour as the Neath just misses the arrow there to try and root and get some damage off. Kali is lurking, but ultimately we probably just have to disengage into the jungle until the Knight disappears. Far from the back counts and maybe come back. And very quickly you've seen this pressure that appeared from Team Rival quickly disappear as Rising Sun push it back in their favour and go straight for that Alpha Harpy.
Yeah, we are sort of noticing a little bit of mana issues on the side of Kumbhakarna, and I think because he's using that sort of belly flop to help clear wave, I think they've got to be careful that he doesn't sort of throw out all of this CC, and then you see even now, like, he's got no mana, he's not really going to do too much at this point. They've got to be careful that they're not spending it all at once and trying to keep that sustain going, because obviously Neath and Bacchus here are doing a really good job of sort of weathering the storm and avoiding that early damage. And so they're sort of bringing that sustain and being able to keep up their abilities longer than this Kumbha can.
Exactly that. You've got the Kumbhakarna is just trying to do his best to set up the team, but he's just using so many abilities very quickly back to back, which just makes him have to go back to base quick. A good snipe through the wall there for the Ra. Recognizing Merlin's low, trying to clear wave. Merlin's basically stopped moving, so you do see the go into the jungle and catch him just off guard. Me on this dual lane, the Rising Sun dual lane is just farming up as best they can, trying to hit this level 5. We did notice that the rival did manage to push off Rising Sun from seeing their Alpha Harpy, so you have got that little advantage there. I feel this Hachiman's got a slightly better matchup into this Neath at the moment.
I believe that was an unfortunate King Arthur ult. I think it was probably the combo ult as well that did miss the Amaterasu there.
Trying to catch her on the back foot, but ultimately she just dashes away with that very quick dash.
And the movement speed as well from the aura is a very strong escape. I think Kali's coming in.
Going over to that solo lane, potentially make something work. She does have ult though, so she does have that sort of movement speed and potential damage to try and make a play. King Arthur's already got his ult and is doing heavy damage into the into that Amaterasu. On the flip side now, there's Knight's trying to make something work, but the like I said, the Kali ult coming in clutch there, being able to give it a little bit more survivability to escape, and very quickly, Team Rival are turning this around into their favor, having that sort of early game advantage, which they almost lacked in the previous game.
And there we go. Definitely seeing. I think maybe we were right on the comfort side of things for this Ra pick. As you know, like we saw with that snipe, they clearly know what they're doing with it. A lot of early pressure here as they are already level 7. Level 4 backers here isn't too scary at this point. So Raj is going to sustain it out.
I think the issue here is the Merlin is running a little low on mana. He can't really keep up with the Ra clear with his own abilities, and quite often he's using 2 or 3 just to try and get the wave. So he's struggling a little in that scenario. Yeah, you go 3 abilities plus his ult, 4 if you want to include that, just to try and get the wave down. Whereas Ra's using what? He's using his 1 and maybe the 2 if he needs it, to just try and keep ahead and try and make these plays like that snipe we just saw.
Do you see Oracles going the way of Team Rivals? I think obviously with these early kills now and with that vision as well, they're really starting to sort of spread this pressure out along the map and try and keep it up as we do sort of move into this fight here in the mid lane. Bacchus isn't looking too good as we do see a couple of ults used there. The Ra snipe didn't quite catch anyone, but looks pretty flashy anyway. Kumba to secure that.
Exactly that. He uses that jump aggressively to try and make something happen, but doesn't really work too well in their favor. As we do see the Amaterasu trying to steal this buff, now going to get ganked on by the Kali, gets ulted as well, so you might see a little bit of a CC chain. The Neath does come out though to try and help the team. The King Arthur is very low on mana and will fall, but the Kali is just trying to chip away now as the Nike has come over just to turn these fights around. Does get the kill onto the Kali as well. A very quick double kill for the Nike there to try and get them back into this game.
Yeah, it wasn't looking too hot for the 2 members of Rising Sun there, but that Neath ult came just in time onto the King Arthur there and did so much damage at that range that they managed to spin it around. Obviously Amaterasu with that movement speed, like we said, has got really good juking potential and escape, while also having that built-in heal as well, keeping her going.
Amaterasu potentially being caught out though, using the silent sleep to keep her well, slept until the King Arthur comes straight back and able to clear him up. Slight misplay there, hanging around a little bit too long. Used her escape really to try and silence the Kumbhakana, and very quickly they turn it around into a kill of their own.
There we go, support's heading back into this mid lane for this 2v2. A little bit of an advantage going the way of Team Rival here, as they do have a level lead. They're not going to make too much of it. They are going to see a lot of grouping in that red buff now. Kumba's going to look to bully some people, but maybe get caught out by this Bacchus here. There you go, perfect peeler for himself. He can just sleep them, get out of there.
Meanwhile, in this duo lane, we are going to see the Neath slowly gain a bit of a lead, potentially just having that pressure and be able to steal some of these buffs, but as well as that, also has the ability to gain assists from the other side of the map. So these small things are just going to give her a little bit of an advantage. We do see this Ra getting a 2-level lead over this Merlin.
Seeing the in mid here, I think definitely showing that Kumba is doing a lot of strong work here with the peel, with the CC, and proving me wrong a little bit with the engage potential, as they've now they've got this level lead and this advantage. Obviously, Kumba can now turn what would be a sort of more passive peeling CC and use it more aggressively.
And that is the joy of the Kumbhakana. You can play him defensively with the root and the sleep, but you can also bit of a miscommunication there, and he will eventually die. Neath are coming out, and they're looking heavily onto this this Ra, they do clear him up. Now looking towards this Kali, who uses her ult a little bit early, if anything, and team of Rising Sun are essentially going to look for something to work. Meanwhile, the Neath is trying to use the minions to keep herself alive. Just the big flag, not really able to do a huge amount of that. Kali trying to make a play happen, but the double knockup comes in. One of the only forms of CC that doesn't get affected by diminishing returns, so be able to use that effectively on repeat to really lock down some of these characters.
Yeah, and you do see with these hunters, obviously, identical builds at the moment, but they are going to be sort of branching out into different items here. And obviously, it's unfortunate because the Neath does have more Devourer stacks than the Hachiman, but obviously that ability damage from the Hachiman is so potent with that flag.
We do see the Hachiman ult come out as well, just to do a bit of a chunk damage to Neath, and then try to clear up the rest. Neath obviously might have taken some time to fire that arrow, so maybe get a bit of poke from either minions or the Hachiman itself, and then she uses that into her favour. Meanwhile, we're seeing a bit of an engage on King Arthur. Does use the ult to escape, and I feel that's a bit of more of a win for the King Arthur than it is the Amaterasu. Mainly because he just needs to stack it, and in solo lane you're going to stack that very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think nicely spotted by the Amaterasu, though, obviously trying to get this pressure back into the lane, but obviously doesn't. I don't think they've got it warded, so Kali is going to get over there and engage her. She is looking a little bit low here now, as we do have the two members coming over. Neath it's going to be pretty slow as it travels all the way across the map, but it is under tower though, and that could prove fatal with those extra tower shots.
And the rest of the team turning up as well, just to try and help out. It's probably the dead King Arthur, but you have got a Ra and a Kumba coming in the backline. It's how they're going to turn that. You do see the Amaterasu die, so it is a solo for a solo, but now this Kali's looking very low. Bacchus flop potentially coming up soon as the Ra is doing his best. You do see the CC coming in to try and limit it. Meanwhile, the Kumba is gone into his passive, got that to keep him alive, as this Ra is trying to keep him alive and really try and look towards this mid lane, as now the Merlin is just getting bursted very quickly from the damage coming out from the Ra.
Ra doesn't have too much mana left, but it was enough to secure that one kill. Cleave autos from the Nike, picking up those last two there. Very low at health, but obviously Sleeping Wolf here, just fearless in the face of the enemy there, even outnumbered.
I mean, that was a messy engagement across the board, and I think it was a 3 for 4.
Something like that.
Staying alive briefly, and the Kali falling a little bit early onto that backer, so only that does favour Rising Sun a little bit, and you can see the sort of peak there, I guess. But yeah, can't really do a huge amount about that. Just the Knight being able to put in work towards that back end, Ra had cooldowns, Kumba had died, just able to really put them into that little bit of a lead. I mean, if they fell there, it would be easily back the other way.
A bit of a chalk going on in this steer lane as Hatchman comes off a bit worse off. He's maybe even going to back now. You see the Dazzling Offensive come out as a sort of self-peel. Again, Kali's coming over to gank the Amaterasu. She's going to get out this time though with that movement speed.
Exactly that, using the movement speed effectively. Now we're going to see a potential gank of Ra from the Knight. A good peel from the Kumbhakana to dissuade him. We're seeing a lot of team fights going around on this solo lane at the moment. I think they're almost trying to put this Kali down. So you're now going to see the Ra again, just getting, as I said, bullied by this double knockup. Can't really avoid it, and although he's got the movement speed, if he gets hit by one, he's guaranteed hit by the other one. And this is what I was saying about picking a safe mid laner. You know, you pick up Ra, he ain't got too much escape apart from movement speed, so the knockups are just going to be brutal to him.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing, like, there's definitely some comfort there, right? They've got 4 kills going for themselves, but ultimately they've got 3 deaths as well, so you know it is working out for them. It is securing some damage and obviously providing a lot for the team. But at the same time, that risky pick might even you know, sort of really disadvantage the team moving into the late game. As I think Rising Sun are starting to hit the momentum now. They've figured out what to do into this team comp. They've sort of got that CC combo chain together, and they're pretty comfortable just continuously using that on this Ra to really shut him down.
And a good heads-up play there from Rising Sun, recognizing that they got the Ra, who's probably their main objective, secure, if anything, and they've, you know, they've pushed other members back to base. They've also, I think, they killed the Kumba there as well, so they just go straight to that Gold Fury and try and burst it down. The Neath baiting the Hachiman, so he can't really come over, and then when he starts backing, she goes over and just helps them finish it off, gaining that little bit more gold into their favor. And you can see now they're 3k up, just allowing them to slowly make their lead and hopefully push it even further.
We are seeing, you know, it's still fairly even numbers on the board. You know, 10 to 9 kills, or maybe make that another one here as Cali's getting pretty low. But the gold levels aren't too far off. You know, a little bit more in the favor of Rising Sun, but
100%. I mean, Rival aren't out of this. They just got to play their game a bit more effectively, and I think this Kumbhakana is definitely a good pick to try and set up some of these heavily damaging abilities coming out from the team.
You know, that slight lead in favor of Rising Sun, it's going to be up to them, obviously, to try and extend that further, and they're looking to do so with this Pyromancer here. But we are going to see Kumba coming in the back line and maybe get something sneaky off. Or maybe just try and be annoying and wait for his team to arrive.
King Arthur does blink in, though, but there is, you know, the Amaterasu as well come over. So it's a 3v4, 2C and engage onto this ADC, but is able to get the Ra. Is now looking towards the Hachiman, but Hachiman just has a little bit more damage there to get the kill. But a good heads-up play from the Neath there to be able to turn around and get the kill onto the Ra, and then try and get the Hachiman quite low to the point where he's probably going to have to back.
I think, you know, we said it before with that Gold Fury, but obviously that Ra pickup is super important when looking at these objectives. With that huge snipe for the objective secure gone, we see Rising Sun head straight for this Pyro and take it, even though it is a little bit contested and a bit risky. You have Rival here trying to contest it, get some return kills. Kumbo passive might just keep him alive.
And I think it does. And the Bacchus jumps in to try and give them a bit of CC and just falls. And ultimately, they got Pyromancer, but it's looking towards a deicide. Team Rival coming back with a vengeance to quickly just burst down all 5 members and potentially now look towards a mid tower. Just pushing their lead a little into their favor as much as possible.
Kumbo passive is definitely trickier than people give it credit for. Obviously, it's almost like Rising Sun had a bit of a choice there. Do you focus the Kumba and just get him gone for good this time, or do you know, worry about the incoming Kali who's about to shred you? And it seems like, you know, in the midst of that fight, maybe they lost a bit of clarity there, and that they weren't sort of fully focused in on what they were doing, and so it seems like they sort of split the resources and ended up with neither, and losing their life for it, as this Kali is really starting to hit her stride, picking up another kill in this duo lane.
Nice there, just the Neath not having any vision there in that jungle and just gets ganked very quickly on this Hachiman. Hachiman just sort of slowly running away with this, having the sort of advantage in their favor at the moment. But now the rest of the team has recognized that and going straight towards him. He does have the force to get away and does use exactly that. Just keeps on running at this point with the Kumba coming in. Good ult blink from Sleeping Wolf there on the Knight to be able to limit what we can do. Kumba's just using the ult to try and give a little bit of, I don't know, peel space. I don't really know what you want to call that.
I think if anything, he was trying to buy time for that Ra and the Kali to come over. But they're not going to engage, seeing the sort of still pretty wary, and just going to head back to these lanes by the looks of it.
Exactly, just trying to lock down that Hachiman while their Neath is still trying to hit their stride. Going more into this. This King Arthur has really been controlling their solo lane, which I think is something they really wanted compared to the Kuzenbo from the last match, and just being on a nice comfortable gold which has a lot of damage and a lot of aggression too has really put this Amaterasu in a very awkward situation. She can't really clear waves without taking a load of damage, as again this Ra is getting looked at. Does have the heavenly agility to try and escape, but with 3 members lurking, he's doing his best. He will make it to the tower line, and now the rest of the team are probably going to try and collapse on the remaining members in this jungle area.
Yeah, another sort of tricky team fight in the jungle here, but they aren't really going to engage on it. I think just looking for some sort of out of position picks first, and then they can really press the advantage there. But we did see I did see a Ra ult before on the Ra, Nethal on the Ra, which ultimately nothing came of it, and so maybe a bit of a waste. But they are going to get this tower instead with this sort of big group 5-man.
Yeah, very weird engagement here. 5-man group on right lane from both teams, and we do see the Knight and the Bakasura go in to try and Bakasura backers, but the backers are just taking too much damage from the tower, and now the rest of the team is getting bursted very quickly. We are looking at, I don't know who that was, but the Neath is just running for their life at this point as the rest of the team just bursts through them very quickly, and it will be another deer-side for Team Rival as they go straight towards that Fire Giant.
I'm not really sure where the callouts went there for Rising Sun. I think, maybe they realized that this is sort of, we have to make this happen now or it's not going to happen at all. And unfortunately for them, even though there was a huge knock-up from the Bacchus, I think got 3-4 members in there. But, again, nothing really came of it. Not too much follow-up. And now we're seeing Rival run it down mid with this Fire Giant buff. Most of them are looking fairly healthy, albeit a little bit low on mana. And maybe they're going to head for this Fury instead.
Exactly that, playing it clean. They've got the 5 Giant buff for a while, so they obviously want the Gold Fury to just get that little bit more gold in their advantages, and they're probably going to start pushing these towers after they back off. I wouldn't be surprised if Rising Sun potentially try and sneak Pyromancer while they all go back to base, just getting that little bit more gold in their favour. But yeah, just Team Rival just seems to be playing this a little bit better at the moment and have the sort of level lead they need. And I think getting that solo into a good position, getting their ADC a little bit further ahead while pushing Rising Suns behind, has really turned this around in their favor. And I think, as you say, they've changed their draft up into a better. They've changed their draft into a better sort of lineup from the last game, and they've executing it pretty well into this engagement now.
Yeah, definitely looking way stronger this match compared to the last one. They've clearly managed to pick themselves back up from that loss, and sort of taken that intel, worked on it, and sort of devised this strategy into it. And maybe they've solved it at this point with that sort of almost predictable by this point Rising Sun with that 3 frontline strategy that he used last game. Looking like it's beginning to crumble a little bit, and maybe Rival have picked out some weaknesses in it.
Exactly that, just having that tankiness sort of only really works when you're ahead, I guess, and behind you lose some of that tankiness that makes it very hard for them to really engage on. As you can see, the 4-man group run it down mid. You're missing the, I assume that's the Nike Neath who slowly coming in, potentially to the backline, as the back is just delaying at this point as the Knight goes straight towards that backline, gets ult by the combo, good peel. The Neath just trying to throw out the auto as much as possible. Do get a kill on the Brother, and this could be the fight they want to win. Try and turn into their favour. Amaterasu comes in and locks down both tanks, but Kali is on the backline. Same with the Hachiman coming in slowly as well. Kali's being a nuisance to the Merlin, and this King Arthur is just so tanky at this point. He's basically able to free throw these abilities into the crowd.
I think that's exactly what he wants to do, cause a nuisance, get good damage off, get in people's way. You see how the Kumba and the King Arthur there still look very healthy, barely took any damage from that fight, and there was like 4 members laying into them, and they're just sort of buying time for the Hachi and Kali to come over and sort of force them to back off. It looked like it was a fight they wanted to take, of course, but maybe there's something in the itemization. Maybe they need more pen online. Maybe they, need to find a way to farm up to figure this out, because that 2-man front line is looking just as strong as Rising Sun's 3-man front line at this point.
Exactly that, but I do like what Rising Sun do. They go straight towards that Ra, limiting what he can do in these engagements. Recognize there is a lot of burst damage in his kit, and they don't want to deal with it. So you see a bit of an engagement now with this Amaterasu, who is just trying to run for the hills at this point, using the ult to try and get a bit of peel. Good beats from the Kali, and they are just going to chunk through the Amaterasu. Just going mainly for that, I guess, health build. With the Stoner Guy, doesn't really have a huge amount of physical protection apart from that Brawlers, and Carly having that Kins is just going to quickly burst through all of that health and make it very difficult for the Amaterasu to do a huge amount into this solo jungle combo.
Definitely, I think you see the huge difference there between the Amaterasu and the King Arthur. Obviously, we saw King Arthur getting beaten up by 3-4 people and living through it, whereas Amaterasu there just doesn't have the tanky stats to keep him going, even on two opposing fighters there. See, Kali hits 20 now, and she is super scary from any member. Whether you're a tank or not, doesn't matter. Kali's coming for you. They've really got to be careful, because she has a lot of sort of multi-kill potential, right? That's kind of what her kit's all about. Sort of get the target and then on to the next one, right? And keep that roll going.
Exactly, you pick up this Kali for your late game carry. She does so much work when it comes to basically about now. She's got a build, she's got level 20. When she ults, she's going to be ulting for a while. And exactly that, just going for those marks to give her the full heal, and she is going to be very scary. And it's why some people, call her the Penta Queen at this point. She just goes from mark to mark and gets a lot of health, a lot of mana back. Able to try and turn it into their favor. You can see now they're just trying to do some work into this King Arthur. Rural slightly off the mark there. King Arthur's a tanky man. And using that Stoner Guy, he's going to be pretty well topped up in healing in his back pocket.
See this grouping around the pyro and the fire here. I think it's going to be whoever looks to clean up this team fight is going to look to take the fire and really sort of push towards the end. I think Rival is sitting in a little bit of a better position at this point. See, Ra's got to watch out for his mana, whereas all the others are looking pretty topped up. You can see King Arthur just run into the backline and cause a nuisance. The Ra sniper did some good work there. Kali's in there somewhere. Does have to ult though.
So that Kali has the damage and goes ahead. Do see the Knight come through and get the kill. Now looking towards the Ra, who's just stuck in the middle of it. Does fall to the knee, who is probably their saving grace to try and get through some of these tanks. We do see the Kumba just trying to do what they can. The Amaterasu did die very quickly, and they're looking towards this King Arthur, trying to limit his engagement, and very quickly gets burst down from this double damage to the front line. This Kumba is again chased down and knocked down. It is now this Hachi man against the world. It's the team trying to back off. He does get a kill into that Sleeping Wolf Knight.
Yeah, Kumba passive isn't going to save him this time, but this Hachi man is doing an awesome job of scaring off these two squishies from Rising Sun. Becca's not quite there to back him up, but he is still very formidable. You did see the horseback archery come out and hit multiple targets there, heavy damage there, but they are going to look for this Fury instead. So one man can't really contest it, but instead, huge play here. He's going to go for that Pyro, as obviously he's spotted them out. He knows where they're going, so instead he's going to get something for his own team instead.
Exactly that. I mean, he's got the damage, he's got the lifesteal, and just able to take that and get a little bit of victory for that 4-man flop. And as you say, Team Rising Sun just having a slightly better engagement there into that situation, be able to burst the Kali down quickly and then quickly get the Ra as well. Really just turn the fight on its head, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're probably going to look for their future engagements, as we have also seen that Rival have a similar sort of style of bursting through the 5 members, so some of these engagements are going to get very scary very quickly.
You know, even though Rival were looking to have a bit of a lead, and they're obviously looking to push it with the Fire Giant, as we hit this 30-minute mark now, it's still anybody's game. You know, they're both really close teams, and both, you know, really showing us how they got this far in this league, and you know, both of them are really strong teams, putting on a really awesome display at this point, and still anybody's game. There's a little bit of lead for Rival, and they're you know, doing a good job of using that. But now, you know, Rising Sun getting these good couple of team fights going. We're going to see another one kick off here.
Yeah, I'll just try and catch some of these members. Carly is in the backline doing a lot of work. The stream's a little choppy for me, and they're going straight for this Merlin, but they managed to catch him. The Mountain Archery coming in, doing a lot of damage to him, finishing him off. Meanwhile, the this Knight is just chunking, and not only did the Hatchman get one, he got two. They're looking towards the solo lane and get him as well. Now going towards the Ra, can't really do a huge amount of that. It's very quickly becoming a Team Rising Sun's win here as they very quickly chase down the support. He does use the blink to try and get away safely, but it was a good play, I would say, by the as they just try and finish him off at this point. Good play there by the Hatchy man trying to get the pick, but ultimately he put himself in a bad position and very quickly fell to the damage coming out from the rest of the team. Carly went straight into that background and, although got a lot of damage off, died very early as well. As it was almost as the rest of the team were just waiting for her to dive and then go off from that point. As we are going to see probably a Phoenix come in from this team.
There you go, the key thing there, right? So at the whole engagement, Neith didn't die. She kept up even with the Hatchy, even with the Carly jumping in. And you know, that's crucial for their structure damage here with the Phoenix falling. Carly drops again, which is really unfortunate for them, as that would have been a big swing in their favor if she could get rolling. But
very low.
You know, managing to keep up that peel to keep the Neith going was huge. There, constantly pumping out that consistent damage, even into the tanks at this point. You know, they can just shred them.
That's just saving grace with the tanks, is just that Neith with the consistent damage coming into the autos. Now going into a sort of final line, it's got the fail mark, going for more crit, trying to burst through some of these squishy targets as well. Probably aiming towards Carly, trying to kill them in some very quick successions with the crit over the more consistent damage. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see probably another team fight around this sort of right-hand side Fire Giant. But Team Rival do currently have the advantage with wards.
There we go. Sort of looking at this Fire Giant, not going to start anything yet. Obviously, just getting that ward control, get the vision going. Try and force another fight like that, and I think, you know, one more fight for Team Rising Sun really could secure it.
Caught out. Does have the tankiness and the movement speed to move himself away. Rising Sun just trying to play very aggressive here, just try and lock him down in a space they don't want to be in. Hachiman just throwing stuff over the wall. That's fair enough. They are trying to lock him into this choke, so they can't really get to the Fire Giant pit, and they can potentially maybe try and bait someone in for some picks. We do see a Rasnight come through, doesn't hit anybody though, but it will come up very quickly, as that is one of Ra's benefits. He has a very quick to return ult.
Careful as the ult's coming out here. I think the Dazzling Offensive does go off. It doesn't hit any targets though. The damage rescue is very low. We do see a big backline dive here. So we see the Amaterasu goes down. Carly's in there doing work. I think Arthur's in there as well. Really sort of shredding. But meanwhile, obviously Nike's doing work on the other team, but kind of just zoning them out at this point and can't really secure anything.
Exactly that. I mean, you're seeing it very back to front. The Carly was able to just get in there and do exactly what they wanted, Carly things, and was able to just chip through these members as much as possible. And it will be the return DS side from Team Rival to Rising Sun, and they didn't even lose a member there. They had the healing, they had the damage, and they're by looks of it going to try and run it down mid a bit, get that tower, potentially get a Phoenix of their own. They do have 20 seconds until this Amaterasu spawns. Same with the Neith, but just able to get that Carly into the backline to very quickly burst through people, and it seems to be whoever engages tends to lose the fight, as the backliner can really do a lot of work.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel like, I was just before that fight happened, I was going to say something about how like both these teams are doing a really good job on these weird fights in jungle areas that seem a bit messy. But and there was another one there where obviously we saw the Team Rising Sun and Team Rival both very split up, but obviously Rival, that was intentional. They were send in the Kali to the backline and just let her pop off, I guess, with the King Arthur doing a lot of work as well. But whereas Rising Sun, obviously you see Nike has really got a lot of the kills of their team and is clearly a huge part of these fights. But instead they were pushed up way too far. Ended up dueling the Cumber and the Ra, I think.
Quite going to start here. They're trying to burst it very quickly while everyone's backs. Hatchman is over at Gold Tree, so he's kind of going to come on the backline trying to dissuade them. But the damage is coming through. The King Arthur is also there trying to potentially steal it. Same with the Cumber. It's probably on a coin flip, but Rising Sun do secure it, do get the kill onto the King Arthur. Will potentially now run into that backline to take down the rest of the members. Next stop is Cumber Kana. Can't really escape the CC immune dazzling offensive, and they are going to probably try and run it down this right-hand lane. Meanwhile, the Kali is just lurking.
I think Kali's pretty scary, but when there's 5 members grouped up like that, I don't think even she wants to challenge that. But you can see them look for this mid Phoenix. Obviously, it's a bit lower, and they think they can deal with it quicker. They have got to be careful of these fire minions coming from Team Rival now. Also, the Oni wave will probably push up pretty far on that left lane for Team Rival, but I think that was a huge call out from Rising Sun, right? Taking that fire giant when no one's looking.
Exactly.
Very well played.
They got Phoenix. They're learning how to back off, and they quickly all run there, burst through it. And now they're making another play towards this hatching man. He does have the movement to get away. Kali is around and looking straight towards the kill, but a very quick burst coming through from the rest of the team to clean it up. And the rest of the team is now trying to chase it into the Titan room. They do have the Merlin damage and the Neath damage, but Team Rival are on an all-out sort of defensive course here. A good double stun from the King Arthur as he tears through some of these members. Kills the Knight, now looking towards Merlin. Not a huge amount you can do about that. The Neath does fall. They will get a kill onto the onto that King Arthur. As now it's going to be the Amaterasu just trying to run away. And will probably eventually fall. But a good defense from the side of Team Rival into that Fire Giant team. Being able to turn on their face. And this whole time, you've got Oni minions just pouring into this left-hand Phoenix. Just slowly securing the advantage into the favor of Team Rival in that engagement.
Yes, yeah, I called it before the fight was happening. Those Oni waves really do some work at this point in the game. But that was a crucial fight for Team Rival to win. If they lost that close to Titan, that would have been it. But instead now they're going to spin things on its head. And with these death timers hitting minutes now, it should be a fairly easy cleanup for them. They got the damage, they got the minions.
Exactly that, just very quickly bursting through that Titan. Do see Team Rival coming back with a vengeance, being able to quickly turn the whole game on its head with some very strong picks, and we will go to a game 3.
Yeah, it's a very, very nice gameplay there from Team Rival, but even from Team Rising Sun as well. Obviously, they looked very strong. But I think if you look at the stat line here, obviously most of the kills went through Nike, and obviously she falls off a little bit damage-wise later on, and obviously Neath had to try and pick up some of that slack, but wasn't quite doing it. Whereas on the other team, you see Kali was popping off, Hachi was popping off. Even early on, Ra was doing some great work, and King Arthur and Kumba doing making some nice plays, disrupting the enemy team, getting in the face. It's very well played, and obviously that fight into a Fire Giant team is it's a scary fight to pick, but they made it work for themselves. I'm very impressed.
Exactly that. Back against the wall, your Titan's taking damage, and they quickly pulled out the victory into their favor. And I want to say, most of those team fights, although they seem to be all or nothing, you either kill the enemy's team to a deicide or your team deicided. I can't help but feel it was, as I said, whoever sort of engaged the team fight, often lost it. You know, you had if team rival engaged, they would send the Kali in on that backline, and the rest of the team from Rising Sun would instantly disengage, kill the kill the Kali, and then quickly collapse on that front line. Whereas in the flip side, when Rising Sun sort of tried to engage, the Kali went to the backline, but there was no peel for the backliners to sort of help, if anything. And at that point, you kind of needed a 5-man collapse on that Kali. But I do like how well both teams played their draft, and that was a very close game to really try and pick it up. So both going for different strats and both having their pros and cons to try and turn it into their favor.
Yeah, definitely. I think I like the changes that Rival made. I think they definitely caught onto something. Not exactly sure what that was, but maybe they just, again, you know, figured out the enemy team comp and, you know, its weaknesses. But it could also be the other way around. Maybe they just thought, right, let's not play into Rising Sun. Let's play our own game and force them to sort of face our game plan instead. It definitely looked very strong and obviously paid off for them. They seemed a lot more comfortable in that match, whereas in the, you know, contrast, the first match, they were almost sort of always consistently on the back foot to Team Rising Sun, and you know, maybe they just needed that one warm-up game to get them into it and get the blood pumping, get them going, because that was a wild ride in that match.
Exactly that. You know, by losing a very difficult game one, just I think the end score was what 25-11 or something. So coming back and being able to blow the team out the water and really put them on the back line, or back foot, I should say, straight from the get-go, from that Ra snipe first blood, able to try and turn it into their favor. And although I hedged my bets against the Ra, I think the Ra worked up to a point. I think he worked in that mid game. He worked in the early game. I think it was only really when the team fights came about did he start getting bursted up very quickly. And apart from that, he also had the the dive potential from this double knock up that really didn't allow him to do a huge amount apart from just die, I guess. So he worked in that early game, and then sort of, as I said, he fell off a bit. He did have a little bit of healing to try and help his team, but not a huge amount. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're potentially going to see maybe some more aggressive picks on the side of Rising Sun. I felt the Neath pick was a bit of an interesting one, but ultimately I feel there were better ADC picks, and it's a similar sort of style with the Knight. Although the Knight did a lot of work, I feel you could probably do a bit more work with a more traditional sort of assassin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at that stat line, obviously, you know, can you imagine a stat line like that on an assassin? You know, they would be just, you know, shredding through anyone at that point. But on a Nike, you know, it's not super scary. I mean, it did loads of work in early to mid, but come the late game, she's just sort of another frontliner that's just sort of trying to disrupt you and still putting out solid damage, but not nearly as much as a sort of bursty assassin would do. But yeah, you mentioned obviously the Ra damage, and I think as the Ra started to fall off, it was really awesome to see how the Hachiman and the Kali would almost pick up the slack from that, and sort of they would become the new carries, and Ra would sort of you know, go into a more sort of supportive backline role of just sort of laying down the AoEs and sort of that sort of area denial stuff. But you know, so it was really well played there. Sort of noticing the different gods peaking at different times and being able to account for that across your whole team comp.
Exactly that. You're just sort of waiting until Kali hits that late, sort of mid to late game, and as soon as they do hit it, they start chunking heavily. You know, just being able to use that passive, use the ult to just do so much damage without dying. Granted, on the side of Rising Sun, they did have sort of the CC to try and lock her down a bit, and she did get bursted very quickly. But I feel the main issue Rising Sun had in this game was probably the Amaterasu, not really able to do a huge amount in that engagement, and more often than not got bursted very quickly to the point where she would ult, and that was probably about it at the beginning of the team fight. By that time, she would take too much damage and would have just fallen off and died.
Definitely, just checking out the chat now, and I think we're going to see a few further adjustments going into this game 3. I think we're going to see a bit of a sub swap, and it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, I always say it with the subs. It's always interesting to see how that changes the team dynamic, and obviously it's going to affect the team comms a little bit. Having a sort of unfamiliar player pop in and help out. Definitely will be interesting to see how that one pans out. But both teams still looking really strong. It will be interesting to see how, obviously, that was a pretty long game, 37 minutes. It'll be interesting to see how that affects these teams and sort of gets in the head of it as we push into this game 3. They've been playing for a while now, maybe getting a bit tired. They've got to keep up that stamina and that momentum into this game 3.
Exactly that. It is going to be a test of endurance at this point. Can you keep going despite the probably quite a big loss there, or even a big win on the side of team rival? So it's can you keep going through all of that? And I suppose the nice thing about the sub swap is both teams can blame it if they lose. But yeah, I think the two things that really stick out to me is the King Arthur had a phenomenal game. Well, no, there's a few things, as you said before, we've already talked about Kali, so I won't mention that, but the King Arthur had a phenomenal game with the amount of damage and control he brought to the team fight. And on top of that, yeah, it's mainly that arthritis, what? No. Amaterasu, there we go, nailed it. Amaterasu pickup, which really didn't bring a huge amount into that sort of comp. Couldn't really control a huge amount, and as I said, he would go in and die half the time, so didn't really bring that tanky frontline or backline dive potential that you kind of needed.
Yeah, I think there were some sort of solid ults coming out from the Amaterasu, but I can't really think of a time where it had such a huge impact that it swung the whole thing, But I think with Amaterasu, a lot of her benefits in those late game team fights are pretty stealthy, right? They're kind of hidden buffs. Her passive with the 3 auto attacks to mark things, to sort of help your team out to deal the extra damage, but also the different aura stances. They mean that even if Amaterasu herself is not doing anything too crazy, it's about unleashing that team and getting their potential going as well. And I think we definitely saw some of that in those later fights.
Exactly that. Just trying to keep those. You use that, as you say, the aura to the advantage, but it's entirely dependent on. You can only bring that aura up to a point, and if you're gonna be that first initiator, ult and die, then you've kind of lost that aura for the rest of the team. It's, if anything, you're more of a distraction while the rest of the team tries and kills that Kali, which I guess is something that would potentially work in your favor.
Yeah, I think, looking at the difference, obviously King Arthur's going to be kind of more selfish rather than team oriented, right? He's going to just sort of run through that team straight to the back line, be a nuisance. He might not get crazy amounts of damage in that later game, but he is gonna, it's pretty solid damage numbers actually. But it's more about getting in their face, and it's very hard to focus the enemy carry, when you've got a huge bruiser up in your face and sort of constantly hitting you with things.
And as you said, that was the difference between the Amaterasu and the King Arthur. King Arthur was so tanky in those engagements that he was able to do exactly that. He was able to move around those engagements very quickly, be a bit obnoxious so the Kali could keep doing her thing. And the Amaterasu just didn't really have that. She tried to do that, but didn't really work in their favour in the long run.
And I wonder if, looking at Game 3, maybe Rising Sun will take this, seemingly this team comp that they seem to have practiced and got down. Maybe they'll, take it back to the drawing board for this Game 3 and, evaluate it and try and figure out where those weaknesses are and try and patch the holes almost. On the other hand, it's possible they might stick with it, if they're comfortable on it. Maybe mix up a couple of the picks in there. But, it's tricky to say. I think obviously comfort is valuable, and sort of if you've practiced on something, I say it's almost like muscle memory, where you can play these gods without thinking. You're super comfortable. You know the callouts. You know what you're doing. But at the same time, if rivals are expecting that, you've got to be weighing up other options as well. And maybe that's what Rising Sun are looking at.
I think that is the advantage they almost have. Is I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams, I mean, Team Rival already showed off how they can very quickly change strategy into something that they want on their side. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rising Sun could do the same. They've tried this triple tank strat for their team, and it obviously didn't pay out in this scenario. It did the first game, so potentially they're going to go towards the more traditional start, maybe a sort of tanky solo lane that can get in their face and go back to maybe the Bacchus, although it worked in game 1, didn't do too well in this one, so maybe go towards a more take the Kumba away, or maybe the Kuzenbo that we've seen Reese play, and then maybe get sleeping on one of these sort of hyper carry junglers. I mean, you're back against the wall, you're going to bring out all the stops at this point to try and turn it into your favour.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously both these teams really sort of pushing their hardest for the semi-final spot, and I think really goes to show here as right out of the gate, both of these two matches have been super explosive, super close as well. Really high level smite going on here, and I think sort of excited to see how these other matches in these semis, and obviously ultimately the finals as well, how they all pan out. But at the end of the day, both teams look like they're enjoying themselves. I always find that when games are that close, that's when you have some of the most fun, right? Is when you sort of find your sort of even match.
Yeah.
And it's super close, could go either way, and you get really into it. So I'm sort of glad this is, turning out to be balanced, and nobody wants to see a sort of super quick stomp. So I'm glad we've got to this game 3, and I'm excited to see how it pans out.
Exactly that. We had what, Rising Sun get a Phoenix, and then Team Rival get the counter Phoenix, and then Rising Sun sneak Fire Giant and try and push into the Titan room, and then very quickly Team Rival fight back and able to get Titan. It shows that these are some very close games, and you can see how close these sort of top 4 teams are going to be in this this sort of end game situation. So we are probably going to look at a very explosive game 3 to end out this set. And I mean, this is both teams back against the wall. If you lose this game, you are going to be out the tournament, and the winner will go to finals. So I'm expecting some very, very interesting picks coming through on the side of on both sides, I should say.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be a big deciding point here, and I think either of these teams throughout the weeks have proven their worth, and really shown how powerful these teams can be. And obviously there's been some hiccups and subs and things along the way, and sort of trying to organize things, but we're here now, and we'll have to see how this one goes. Usual vans get locked in, standard at this point.
At this point, you just don't want them. Obviously, don't want the Kumba, which is a bit of a surprising ban, but I can't say I'm too surprised about it, recognizing that the company did a lot of peel work there and really made it a bit awkward to try and get into that backline of fight, often forcing members out of the fight entirely. Don't want to play against that. And on the flip side, they don't want to play against a knight, just having a little bit too much aggression coming through in that jungle position.
You're going to see Discordia picked out as well. I imagine they're probably looking for the Merlin again if it doesn't get taken. As it's just working all right for them, and I think there's a good bit of comfort on there. But Cupid is going to be locked in as that first pick.
I
think we did see Rival play him in the first match, right? But I think this time seeing on the other side, I wonder if we'll see some differences in build, perhaps not the double lifesteal we saw before, and see this different variation on Cupid instead.
And there it is, your double Hunter lane. Heimdall being banned out twice in the fight and getting picked up in game 3. And that will be an interesting fight for the Cupid and Heimdall. Both very strong picks at the moment, and both bring a lot to the table. So I imagine these two ADCs are really going to start throwing hands at each other until they get till we see who comes out victorious.
So yeah, I think going to be some exciting times. As that we've seen some really close head-to-head duels in that Hunter side, and obviously it's mixing it up now with the Heimdall in the mix. It's going to be super interesting. So we haven't seen too much of him, over the course of the league, because usually, like you say, he's been banned. But we are going to see a couple of these sort of familiar picks coming out now, as the Ra and Achilles and Kuzenbo. It's almost like a greatest hits of this last couple of games, and all 3 of these picks looked awesome when we saw them in their respective matches. So seeing them now in this sort of rejigged format here is going to be interesting to see.
We do see the Geb picked up, something that's a little bit of a weird one, but able to have the similar sort of supporty sideline as the Kumbhakana. It's got the shell or the shield, I should say, to try and keep your teammates alive. But I do like both the Kuzenbo and the Achilles pickup. We've seen Reese play Kuzenbo, and it sort of gives you the CC you need to try and dissuade people from getting in. And the Achilles, we saw that Fives was a lot more comfortable on that pickup than the Amaterasu, and it also allows him to try and execute some of these tanks should they go into that tanky lineup again.
Yeah, and obviously, I think Geb might be able to alleviate some of the issues with the Ra and the Heimdall, obviously with the cleanse for the CC. Definitely going to be sort of a good move there. We're going to see Kali and King Arthur banned out. Don't want to see those again, but likewise, we can see Nemesis and Scylla. And we haven't really seen these picked up, but we know they're both pretty strong.
And we know both get played by Sleeping Wolf in the jungle. We do see a Bakasora pick covered. Now, Bakasora is one of those ones that he's struggled a bit in the league. I don't think he's won too many matches, and instead he's going back to the Hunbats, wanting that over the pickup and going straight into the Camazots there to try and potentially turn that around in their favor. And we will see the Merlin get picked up as well. Just a very strong comfort pick from Josh in that mid lane.
Yeah, and I think like we said, comfort is worth so much in these fights. If you're comfortable on the god, you don't have to think about your mechanics, and you can sort of concentrate on the overall game plan and the sort of concentrate on what your enemy's doing instead, and focusing on dealing with that rather than what you're doing. Interesting, we do see the Bakasura and the Arachne as well, just sort of being completely disregarded at the moment. But I'm liking the Camazot's pick. I think he's super strong, and obviously someone like Sleeping Wolf can certainly make that happen.
We do have the double healing comp from the Guan Yu Ra, so we'll see how that works out. But yeah, going to this Hunbats to try and get a bit more control in these team fights. Got the Geb as well for the great big setup from his ult. And then you also got the Guan Yu, similar sort of style to King Arthur, just able to run through the team as much as possible to try and get to that back line as quickly as possible. I think these are going to be some very high octane fights with a lot of team fighting ultimates across the board.
Yeah, definitely, and I think maybe it's these weird picks that Rival are bringing out. Maybe that's what it takes to deal with Team Rising Sun, get them with the unfamiliarity, But I do fear that obviously with the healing composition, that can be dealt with pretty effectively when people start getting the anti-heal in their builds. And no doubt we'll be seeing that on, well, probably quite a few members of Team Rising Sun. So you do have to be careful there, but obviously we did see some good gameplay from Ra before, and I'm sure we'll see some awesome snipes again. And with the help of Geb coming along, obviously when they start rotating to that mid lane, it can definitely make something happen, along with the Humbats as well. I think looked very strong in that first game. So, maybe this time around, rather than being that sort of passive and defensive force with the ultimate, trying to get those sort of risky engagements and trying to get those to pay off with the help of a Geb. It'd be interesting to see if that does come to fruition.
Now, I don't mind the Ra pick up as much into this sort of engagement. You've got a little bit. He's in a position where the movement speed will actually do him good, whereas in the previous fight, that double knockup was almost just too much for the Ra. I couldn't really get a huge amount off into the game. So picking up here, he's got the movement speed to try and escape some of these sort of damage dealers from the Cupid Fields of Love, the Achilles Chase with his sort of spear and dodge and shield, Kuzenbo if he's chasing you down, and similar with the Kamazots as well. Just trying to turn the fight into his favor. Little bit, I would say, I would still prefer a safer mage, but it still gives him that. It's still something, and I am surprised we aren't seeing almost nothing done to this Merlin at all. No bans, no counter picks, just allowing Josh to really sort of pick him and play him as effectively as possible in these engagements.
Well, yeah, I think while obviously he's comfortable in it and has done some good stuff with it, I think the Merlin hasn't been super game breaking. I think it's been strong and pretty solid performance throughout, but I'd say I haven't really seen too much ban worthy at this point. And sometimes, if you do go after a player like that to hunt them down with that Merlin ban or picking up yourself, you've got to wonder what you're letting through instead. So maybe they're not too fussed about the Merlin. Maybe they can deal with it. Definitely seemed like they could in that last game. So sometimes you just got to let these things through, and even if it's a comfort pick and they're gonna grab it, sometimes you can feel comfortable because you know what to do against it.
Exactly that. You're just trying to really limit what the team can do, I guess. And I suppose Team Rival in this situation are going to be playing more for this sort of healing comp and these long extending engagements, and it's really going to be down to how Rising Sun play into it. And I feel Achilles is going to be one of these sort of strong factors to try and burst through them before they can get the healing off, as Ra is more of a tick healing.
Here we go. I'm going to be interested to see how the Kamazots works out. We haven't seen too much of him this tournament. I mean, he's been banned out a couple of times, been picked up a couple of times. I think we might have saw him in solo before as well, or at least just in my normal queues I've seen him in solo. So it'd be interesting to see how he works out. I mean, I know obviously Sleeping Wolf super good mechanically, and we know that he can make stuff work, but don't think I've seen him on Kamazots before now. But I'm sure they've picked it for a reason. They know what they're doing, and again, they've moved away from this triple frontline tanky setup. It's still pretty similar, but grabbing the Kamazots for that carry potential, I think, is definitely going to be important here.
And I was actually to say, you know, Camazotz used to get picked up as a counter to King Arthur when he was so dominant in the solo lane. I think we have been treated to one or two Camazotz games when he's in the jungle, but again, it's an interesting pickup to go for. And as you said, you know, the Bakasaur and the Arachne were still open, both very strong picks. Obviously, feeling a little dirty perhaps using them and doesn't want to play them a huge amount. We will see Geb get that Ghost Minion and back off, and just trying to do a little bit of damage. We do see the Heim and the Cupid just slowly boxing out. Nothing too out of the ordinary in the beginning. Geb has hit level 2 though, because they have got that little bit more wave clear as the Nene Kappa's just trying to help with the minion, and then you do see the Kudenbo hit level 2 too.
I wonder if we'll see some big poke coming out from the Geb, and I think you know, this Geb pick's pretty surprising. We haven't seen him too much this tournament. But you know, in the right hands can be pretty devastating.
We saw him in one of the Boom game.
Yeah, I think we did, and yeah, let's not talk about it. But you know, hopefully Dead Gent here will show us how it's done.
TC Achilles make it out just with little help as the Camazotz come in for an early engage. Heart Bomb is gone. It's probably going to hit both, as both this dual lane is being focused heavily from the side of Team Rising Sun, and that's going to do them very nicely into their favor, as they're now going to look towards this Humbats, who was a little bit late to the rotation.
Yeah, Camazotz in the right place at the right time there. Very nice coordination from Rising Sun, getting those 2 early kills. They're not messing around this match, you can tell. You know, after that shaky performance last match, especially early on, you know, we did see pressure go to Rival. This time, they're coming strong straight out the gate with the 2 kills picked up there. Getting this Camazotz ahead, and obviously a Camazotz ahead, I think, is much more scary than a Nike ahead.
100%, and I think the advantage there was just good teamwork from all 3 members. The Cupid Hardball coming in on the Geb, and then the Kuzenbo pushing the Geb into the Heimdall, so they both got stunned, just able to try and do as much CP and damage as possible. And you do see the Humbats come over, potentially trying to make a play on the Achilles, but Achilles just sort of backing off, keeping himself alive. We do see more aggression in this duo lane.
That'd be looking to see this this Heimdall and this Geb really start to spin things around. I mean, we know Heimdall can really chunk people once he starts to get online. Gone for a bit of an interesting build with the presumably going into Devourers. I think, at least from my experience, usually Heimdall would head for a Transcendence for that ability damage, but not this time apparently. Instead, the Cupid's going to be going for the Transcendence.
Exactly that. I mean, the benefit of Cupid is you've got that little bit of healing built into your kit with the hearts, so you got something to keep you alive a little bit. And whereas Heimdall more relies on that sort of auto attacks, and although they are very heavy hitting auto attacks, it gives them a little bit of lifesteal. I think it is a bit weird though, because we are seeing, you know, lifesteal being built by Cobain, which is a bit rare. And I think it would probably do him quite well in these engagements.
Definitely, and yeah, I guess it's an interesting one. Obviously, they've got some kind of plan with that, with the Devourers going on, and maybe taking Heimdall on a bit of a different direction than we're used to. It's just definitely good to see some fresh builds and different perspectives on these gods we see quite often. And obviously, with the backing of a Geb, maybe that changes the dynamic a little bit. Obviously, with the good peel, the good setup, and the shield helping him out as well.
I think the main thing you want to look for when you have these sort of the lifesteal and you're going for more this damage build with Heimdall is you want these sort of abilities, because his autos hit for so much, it's going to heal you quite a bit more as well. So going for more auto attack base, where you can throw these heavy hitting autos as quickly as possible, means you can very quickly do a lot of damage to the team. You do see a bit of engage on both the solo laners here, as Camazotz does go in the air to try and get the kill, does have to back off, as the Hunbats and Camazots all use their ult. Achilles still has his, but only decides to disengage as the Ra comes over as well. Potentially looking for a smite through the wall though.
I think it's going to see a big engagement on this left-hand side. I think Kuzenberg's running a little bit low on mana though, so he's going to back off there. Meanwhile, on the solo side, it's not looking too good for Achilles here, but he's got his jungler and his mid lane waiting for him. They're going to collapse onto this Ra.
Meanwhile, the Camazot's getting the kill there on the Guan Yu in the back lane. Guan Yu quite low, can really do a huge amount. Going for that blue buff just to really limit what the Guan Yu can do. Similar style with the Achilles, and they're just trying to set up these lanes as best they can, and they're doing exactly that. Rising Sun able to put not only that duo lane ahead with a double kill, but also kill both the solo lane and the mid laner from rival, so they can't really play into it a huge amount. And it will try and put just having that little bit of early pressure they need to try and turn this game into their favor.
Yeah, and I think obviously the gold difference is nice, but I think at this earlier stage, the XP difference is going to be where it's at. Obviously, we know a whole bunch of that is going towards the Camazots as well, who even now, look at this, he's doing so much damage. And he's going to look to burst him with the Bat Out of Hell, and he does pick him up on the way, and he's just going to do a little sort of drive by the tower there as he's fine. And we can see a bit of a counter engage from the Humbats onto the Merlin, but I think Merlin might just be safe, or maybe not with the Fear No Evil. Will ensure he gets picked up there.
Here I was saying, you know, I thought the role was a bit safer in this draft, but with this dive coming in from the Camazot, going straight to this Geb next, the shell not really being enough, you will get auto, and they're probably now going to look towards this Hunbat, so maybe even the Heimdall, just going on a one-man shopping spree now with Kumbhakana. Good block there from the Kumbhakana, and a good cripple coming out, limiting the Heimdall's ability to use that portal. Just Rising Sun able to set themselves up very healthily in this early game, and having the damage and aggression needed to really push the fight as much as possible.
And obviously the huge part of Camazot's in his passive there, just lapping up the remains of each god he kills, and you know, starting to sustain him further into the fight. Really kept him going during that, which I think was really awesome to see. And obviously as the game goes on, obviously that won't be super prevalent. But unfortunately there, Achilles bit off a bit more than he could chew as he does get the kill. But Tower takes him down. Luckily, obviously, no kill credit to go on you there.
No kill credit, but he does get an assist. Which is a nice niche bit of thing there. So you do see a very big engagement into the Cupid. Rara coming out. Not too much of a loss as it is on a very short cooldown, but I think that will definitely help that duo lane a little bit more. Of course, the Cupid not having boots, only just built them. Just giving them a little bit of an advantage in these engagements, and locking down that Cupid after he's had such a good start, 1-1-2 now, is definitely in their favour.
Yeah, very nicely done as the Humbats cleans it up, but if he didn't, obviously that Ras Knight was looking pretty close. Might have picked him up if needed.
I suppose the other nice thing is he does also get the Humbats a little bit more farm, and to see this Ra again just getting focused by the Bat of Hell on very little health, trying to escape. Does just about make it out. He does have the Geb there, he probably also had shield coming off cooldown shortly. Guan Yu going on a little horsey ride, he gets engaged on by the Achilles and the Camazot, who is lurking. Geb potentially going to be caught out here, but only just decides to back off. Seeing some aggressive grouping by these sort of three men around these mid-camp. Looking towards the counter 3v3. This Merlin is quite low.
There we go. Geb's rolling out to reposition, and I think they're going to try and get onto this Kuzenbo as he does use the Water Grave to try and heal for himself. Fear No Evil comes out, and Camazot's just has to watch as he sees his buddy die. He's going to fight into it though, as he does have this huge level advantage. But not huge on the Humbats though, but he is still fighting into it. So much damage on the Echo there. as Humbatz gets cleaned up. Does have to be careful of the Ra though. On to the next one. You see he's lapping up the puddle though. Did keep him topped up. Does fall to the Guan Yu as Taolu Assault comes in. Merlin just sort of has to hang back a little bit, throw an ability out here and there. So Achilles will go for instead. Good Aegis from the Ra to keep him safe from the execute. And they do turn it around inside the sort of healing field there.
Good sort of pick up there from the Merlin, being able to throw the abilities through the wall to get the kill on the old the Geb in the back line. But yeah, a bit of a messy engagement. Camazot's sort of jumping into a person and dying instantly. And then the Achilles missing the execute, but going for the counter kills. We're now seeing a bit of a 1v1, and it will be a bit close, but the Cupid just having a little bit more damage from the get-go there to able to burst through him very quickly.
Yeah, absolute carnage in this this Hunter duel. Very nice mechanics from both players. You know, you saw the cripple come out, instant Heimdall ult to return the favor with the CC immunity as well. And then we saw the beads from the Cupid to keep himself going, and almost died to the sword coming down. Very nice dodge there from the Cupid, but it's not enough as the attack monkey comes out and secures the one from secures the kill for the Humbats.
Potentially, we'll see him get collapsed on though. Kubo's in the back line, Merlin is in the front line. He goes to go aggressive and just gets jumped on very quickly by both members. So a good counter kill there to try and lock him down. As we do see the Pyromancer kill Sleeping Wolf because he's just getting a bit too aggressive. Pyromancer
he almost had it. Did have a puddle there, but Pyro joining the ranks of the Alpha Manticore as being one of the jungle buffs that really does a lot of damage and got caught out there. Achilles isn't looking too hot though, as two members here looking for him. Guan Yu and Geb are going to chase him down under the tower. That should be a big slow, but he's going to use the CC immune ult to get out. Rollout's going to try and knock him away, but off the mark a little bit. That's unfortunate for the Geb.
Good backstep there from Achilles, recognizing the rollout's going to hit him and just sort of avoiding it.
Although you got to think if it did hit him, it would have just hit him closer to the Kuzenbo at that point.
True.
So maybe not nothing gained there.
Nothing gained, nothing lost. You know, both solo laners lost their ult for that, so not a huge amount to really lose. We are seeing the Guan Yu slowly win lane a little bit. The Achilles sort of getting aggressive in the jungle, trying to turn the fight for his team, losing a lot of tower damage, allowing the Guan Yu to really try and turn the fight around into his favor later on. You see the Achilles trying to fight into him now. Didn't have the shield up to block the Talos Assault, but backs off a little bit. Now this Heimdall is being looked at.
There we go. Camazot's just eating that Heimdall at that point and does catching out. You see obviously Heimdall not having the portal set up to save him. And once Camazot's is on top of you, well, it's already too late. Gonna look towards this Gold Fury now, but Rival are gonna try and intercept this.
The main thing you want to damage to it, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Just you bring Ra and he's gonna do some damage. Sleeping Wolf's very low in that backline, that's to disengage. Warrior Grave is used, but again, he's also very low. Gebel trying to catch him from the backline, but uses a good shell, avoiding all the Ra abilities, does make it out. Cupid does get the Hunbats in the backline. Now it's Merlin and the Camazots against the Ra Geb, as the Cupid is also coming in to try and turn it around.
It's going to be a little bit of poke as they get out of there, but that was huge. I think very nice teamwork from this duo we're looking at right now, the Geb and the Ra. Obviously Geb going ham, rolling out straight into the middle of the fight. I think the Geb was actually a distraction from the get-go, right? They clearly weren't going to steal it with the rollout. Maybe it was worth a shot. But the key thing there was obviously distracting them from the oncoming Ra snipe. And very nice Fear No Evil from the Humbats did allow them to sort of clean up a little bit.
And that's just it, you know, using the Ra snipe. Now that's the joy you have when you bring Ra into these engagements. When you are behind, you can steal these objectives from a quite nice distance away to try and help your team out. And I mean, you saw how it evened out the gold a bit there. It gave them that little bit of gold into their favor, or not in their favor, but trying to flatline it a bit so it's more in the middle. You did see a bit of engagement on both people. Beads used, both ults used. Can't really use those portals because you're just going to go back into his shards. As We do just see the Heimdall back out, recognizing that he's a little low level to take these boxing fights.
And, I think Keeper might just get away with his life, but got a bit low. But it looks like the sort of Cupid's definitely looking more confident in these duels. Obviously, he's got the level advantage. Got fully stacked Transcendence is going to really sort of start to chunk, and just getting the fail not now to really add on to that.
Probably going to an Assai next as well for that bit of lifesteal. Do you see the Ra potentially getting ganked there by 3 members? A little bit miscommunication though from Speaking, trying to jump on him, but the Kuzenbo pushed him away. Combat ult used, but nothing really gained off there. And kept shoving the Kuzenbo back into the engagement as the turnaround comes in from both these solo and jungle. As the Heimdall comes in and just cleans it up though, and it will be 2 kills in the favour of Team Rival, trying to turn around this early game lead that Team Rising Sun have and trying to push into their advantage as they try and chase down this Achilles who's just running for the hills.
And 2 junglers sort of dueling it out. Huge damage from that Echo though, really helping him to secure that Humbats there. Still Camazot's lurking in the jungle. He has sort of sustained himself back up. And Geb is just gonna sort of roll around and just knock him away, saying, "I don't want to deal with you right now." And they are going to get away safely. But unfortunately, yeah, the Kuzenbo did fall there. But a good trade onto the Humbats.
Kind of a cool mechanical thing there, but rolling around an object just to get that sort of CC up and the knock up, ready to push him away. Just a nice small mechanical thing they did, which really worked in their favour to help the Ra sort of escape. Even though I don't think the Ra was going to be in too much trouble. On this duo lane, we are going to see the Heimdall really struggle at the moment. 4-2. 2 levels down as well. He's keeping up on gold just about, I think, but yeah, this Cupid is really sort of boxing into him hard and really turning it into their favour. You do see the Geb come over potentially looking for a gank or an engagement, but nothing huge. I wouldn't be surprised if Cupid's going to play aggressively into this once the wave is cleared. Decides to back instead, probably has enough money for his Assai, bit of lifesteal to keep him going in these fights.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, obviously, both hunters have picked up Fail Not. I'd still say it's still a fairly new item, and I think it's definitely seen a lot of usage on Cupid. I haven't seen it too much on Heimdall, but I imagine it's functions the same sort of way. You know, you smack someone into Niflheim with your ult, and then catch him on the return with a big sort of with the mark there to get the crit going. Definitely think it can work out there. It'd be interesting to see where those hunter builds go after this.
I think Fail Not just gives you so much stats at the moment that it is one of those sort of must-pick items. It gives you
and the cooldown, of course.
Cooldown crit. You do see the engagement onto the Achilles, just taking a little bit too much damage and CC coming through to really put him in a bad situation. Kuzenbo is just becoming a slap thing while he's here. Potentially looking for a pick. We do see the Camazots in the back line looking towards the... that's a big shield he just had, but looking towards the Heimdall, and now he still gets it. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is just having a very weird split-up fight as the Kuzenbo is trying to get a kill with Humbats, and the rest of the team is just trying to push down that tower on left.
Yeah, they are going to sort of catch out this Geb as the sumo push will bring him all the way back. He's going to try and roll out there, but they do catch him out of it before he goes CCME in, and I think sort of just a little sprinkle on top picking up the Geb there, because it was looking like most of Rival had got out safely.
You're going straight to the Gold Fury, you got him low enough, but there is a Ra nearby who might look for the snipe just off the mark. Couldn't get there quick enough, and now the rest of the team might try and collapse on these two as they're pushed up quite aggressively. They don't have a wave, so they're just going to try and disengage. It does seem to be the Team Rising Sun show this game, but Team Rival have played some pretty good play to try and get back into this, as well as got some very good picks and stealing objectives away. We will see a lot of aggression onto this tier 2 tower now, just trying to really limit where the Heimdall can hide and try and get him ahead as possible. But we do see the ult come in as well as the Heimdall ult, looking towards trying to kill the Sleeping Wolf. Cupid ult does come out to give him a bit of peel, and that will be all they need to get the to get him out. Beads used by Cupid to try and escape, and do have the Merlin still throwing abilities into this team. Heimdall very low as the Merlin's now just using the disengage to try and get out.
That sustain is huge. They are just going to come back in. They're going to try and take this fight now as both these members are really low. Ra gets popped by the heart bomb. Hummet's trying to make something happen. But he is standing alone as Kamazots is just going to chomp him too. So much sustain from those puddles. He could just come back in.
Ridiculous. Tanking tower, gets ulted, gets out on no HP and comes back in 20 seconds with 4 health.
Oh.
It's little interesting. He does have a bit of lifesteal, I believe, in this game. Yeah, he's got the blood forge, so he's got that shell sort of when he gets one of these kills. But yeah, just a little bit of sustaining damage.
I reckon maybe there's a bit of a, part of the team play is almost like this sort of, you got a lot of the team working to sort of save the king sort of thing. If you can pump all these resources, all these shells and things into that Kamazots and just let him go and keep him alive, you see how crucial it was him staying alive in that fight. Even though we did see, I think the Kuzenbo fell and Cupid had to back off a little bit and before they could re-engage, and so even though they sort of lost a little bit, as long as they can keep the Kamazots alive, he's got 10 kills under his belt, and so he can really sort of fight into any of rival at this point. So I think this is the difference we're seeing from that Knight pickup last game, which is a bit more of a passive pick, a bit more defensive. Got the big sort of front line in this late game, whereas now Kamazots, he's the one getting the kills.
And already you're seeing the some of these sort of carries on Team Rival just worried about the damage coming through. You see the Ra picking up the breastplate, just trying to avoid avoid dying as quickly, but I don't think it's going to be enough as the Kamazots dive straight into him and just chunking him as much as possible. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is trying to burst through these members in the back lane. Comebacks is low. Guan Yu's are trying to distract at this point. Comebacks will just about get out. And we do see the Heimdall get a kill on the Kamazots, which could be huge to try and turn this fight in their favour.
Ra does get picked up though as he does come back to lane. I think he missed the snipe as well, which is super unfortunate. With Ra down, trading the Ra for the Kamazots, I think is pretty worth it, because obviously Kamazots has all those kills and getting that shutdown is super important.
Exactly that. Just trying to really limit what you can do in these team fights, and if that Kamazot stayed alive, you can guarantee he'll be back in the fight in 20 seconds to try and get more objectives out from it. It is interesting to see what sort of different style these two runners are going. It's basically the same build apart from the lifesteal, but the Heimdall going more into crit, trying to get a bit more. You got 20% from the 20% from fail not, and I think you get something like 31 or 28, I think it is, from
depending on where it's stacked. Yeah, I think. Yeah. But obviously, yeah, going for the rage. I mean, Heimdall's autos already hit like a truck, so adding crit on top of that, and he's got a pretty healthy percentage of it at this point. So you can probably expect a lot more of them. It's going to be very scary for the squishier targets of Team Rising Sun. But instead, obviously, Cupid's gone for the sort of, well, it's ability damage, it's crit, it's attack speed, it's lifesteal. It's kind of got a bit of everything in there.
I think as you see, Ra's just getting a very unfortunate situation there. Walks into 4 members hiding around the Gold Fury pit. But if you hover over Fail Not, I think it gives you so much. It's so much stat sticks. You're getting it for the cooldown, you're getting it for the power, you're getting it for the crit, you're getting penetration too. It just brings so much into it. And on top of that, you also get the, you use your ult, and anyone hit by it is gonna, you're gonna get a lot of damage coming through. Same with allies. Allies can crit on it. As
Very nice juke through the Fields of Love, and the Finno Weaver comes out as well. Heimdall's looking pretty low and doesn't quite get through the Bifrost quick enough, as this little death squad from Rising Sun cleans them up on that left side. And now they're death balling down mid lane, taking this tower, heading straight for that Fire Giant. They want this game done.
Exactly that, and again, you see Team Rising Sun just coming a bit alive from the last game, similar style to what Rival did, and it is a very close engagement on both fronts. But I feel the Team Rising Sun are executing their comp a little bit better in this engagement. But I mean, it's not over yet. The Rival could still turn in their favor. A good ult there from the Geb, try and give himself a bit of health, but the Kuzenbo just bringing him back into the fight, and he will fall.
Yeah, and I love that engagement there. You see, we did see Geb use his rollout, but then you see the 5 members of Team Rising Sun rolling out themselves, just claiming him near those back harpies. And now they're looking for this Fire Giant. They can zone with the Fields of Love. They can take it pretty safely. And now it's 5v4, Fire Giants on their side, Oni Waves on their side. This is going to be a huge defense for Team Rival to try and pull off.
And that's just it. You know, you've got the Oni Waves pushing up these lanes. Team Rival have to deal with them, otherwise they can just shred through the Phoenix like we saw in Game 2. So they will have to back off with that, pretty much allowing Rising Sun a free Fire Giant. And now they've got this...
yeah, Blink Watery Grave, Camazotz hops in with him, Finno Evil gets popped. They don't quite grab the kill on the Humbats though. You do see their backline getting a little bit disrupted, but that Phoenix is falling very quickly. Ra Snipe off the mark. You can see Cupid aggressively dashing in. Sumo push him out, Guan Yu out the way to try and peel for the team. He is looking very low, might get grabbed here. I think we see him go down, and it's going to be on to the next one as Ra's looking low. It might look to pick him off. He's going to heal it up in Fountain, and they're just going to back off here. They've got sort of Oni Waves pushing onto Titan at this point. I'm not sure if they want to take Phoenix at this point. They are going to shred it pretty quick. They have to be careful not to get sort of these return kills, but Camazotz is going to claim another life. As they do take the Phoenix, maybe they even look for a third. I think they're a little bit too low on health. So instead, they're just going to back it off, push that wave, maybe spend some of that gold, and then look to re-engage. You see this Fire Giant is going to keep them topped off, though.
Very good engage there, just from that Kuzenbo alone. Just using the... using that ult to really just harass that backline as much as possible, and forcing the team in a very awkward situation. The Heimdall dies first, I think, there, and then they try and collapse on the Ra, who just about makes it out, just making it very hard for the game to happen. I think it's going to be very hard for Team Rival to try and fight back into this now. They've got to try and push onto this Titan. They've got to defend 2 lanes of fire minions, as well as the team that's going to just probably run it down this left-hand side. Heimdall potentially being caught out, but Cupid backs off. Not really want to take it with no one around.
Yeah, I think if Cupid went in there, he would have been the one caught out, as obviously the Humbats lurking in that jungle. But look at this advantage now. 27-11 going the way of Rising Sun, and that huge gold advantage going their way as well. They've just got to look for that big push to end now. Whereas Rival, they've got to go full defense. All hands on deck here, because those fire minions are running down 2 of these 3 lanes. They've really got to try and get like a solid grouping going, catch out a couple of members.
That's big, but be able to force that ult out is going to be big on these sort of leaders. Now you're seeing the damage come through from Cupid. Does get a kill onto the Guan Yu, and not really having those ultimates available to help you defend Titan. It's going to be a very difficult fight for Team Rival now. You've got the Gebol, you've got the Ra Snipe, but I don't think that's going to be enough. Kev's come straight in towards the Cupid, but at this point the Phoenix is pretty much already down, and they're going to start chasing it down. Humbats is dead. It's going to be Heimdall is against the world now, as he's going to try and turn this around, but I don't think it's going to be too possible, as time falls very quickly, and it will be the 2-1 to Rising Sun.
Very nice push there, as we literally called out a couple of minutes before, is that they were looking for that grouping to end, and they had the wave advantage to do it. And I think Rival were a bit split up. They were a bit sort of splintered across the map. And there you go. You see Team Rising Sun capitalized on that. They were grouping as their 5-man death pool. They know they got the minions on their side. Took out that last Phoenix. I mean, maybe they didn't even need that, but it definitely helped them sort of force a fight somewhere, right? They, if they apply the pressure in that left lane, then mid and right are going to be, what do you do? Do you defend the people killing your last Phoenix, or do you try and stop those fire waves? And the answer is you can't do both, and so something has to fall. And
Exactly.
the Phoenix goes, Titan goes, and there you go. Rising Sun take the set.
Just being able to, as you said, they probably didn't need to do that Phoenix, but just doing it for safety, they did, DSI. They've still got 3 Phoenixes down, and they played it very well in that third game. I mean, both teams played it very well. There was some great picks and team fights that went in Rival's way in the third game, and the second game, and the first. Well, all 3 sets were phenomenal sets and great to watch. But the highlights from Team Rival is that sort of snipe there from the Ra to steal away the buff and really try and bring it back into their favor after that early game advantage. But ultimately, I think Team Rising Sun just sort of had the better draft of anything in this scenario. They picked up the best of all 3 sets, I guess you could say, two games, I guess you could say, and was able to sort of bring it into their favor. As we will see Team Rising Sun advance into the finals, and unfortunately, although they played phenomenally well, Team Rival will be knocked out of the tournament. But both teams played very well in these 3 games.
Yeah, and I think so. Next up on the schedule, we've got another huge match, just like this one. It's gonna be Gardening Tools versus Choo Choo. I think it's still to be decided at this point. We don't know when that match is going to happen. Should be.
They're looking at tomorrow. Tomorrow
Okay.
around 7 is their idea.
We'll have to see if that becomes official. But I'm looking forward to it. If it's anything like this match, it's going to be wild. Anything can happen at this point in the competition. And I'm super pumped to see how the next game goes in the semis, but also, of course, that huge final. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
And that's just it. From I guess me and the Rob on the desk. We want to thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thanks guys. It's been great.
And we'll see you with the next one. Take it easy, guys.